Welcome in, folks. I'm doing a special stream here from the What's Brewing, half the crew anyway. Dom is obviously not here, but I got a couple other friends, Bruins fan friends here, and we just want to enjoy some P Bruins tonight since the big boys aren't playing. I'll let you folks introduce yourself. Kenny, we'll start with you.
Ocean State.
What's up? I'm Kenny. I cover the Providence Bruins for B&G, and I'm excited to be here. Excited to see Providence clinch, hopefully. Pray.
Oh, I think we lost our other buddy over here. I'll bring him back on when I see him here. But that's all right. Right now, we just got the national anthem going, so I do want to give a shout out to my friends over at Flow Hockey for allowing us access to the footage and letting us do things like this with their footage. But yeah, lots going on today in the Twitter sphere. I picked the wrong day this week to not be active on Twitter, so I did find out before jumping on here though that Schmaltz contract is apparently just an AHL contract, so that makes me feel a lot better about it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me feel good, but like I said, I don't know if this is just Evan Gold and Don Sweeney anticipating that they're not going to be able to get the free agents that they want, or the college free agents, or re-signing the guys that they have. So I'm hoping Jake Schmaltz kind of brings something that Providence is lacking a little bit. He's good on the faceoffs. He's a 200-foot player. He's kind of like a little bit less of a scoring Fraser Minton from what I hear. So
yeah. Real quick, our other friend has rejoined, so I'll let you introduce yourself as well.
Hello, I am Into the Den, I make videos after every single Bruins game. Slowly losing my sanity with every passing day, but
I think we all are.
Yeah.
Hopefully this is a nice lethargic watching of the Providence game, as Kenny mentioned, looking to hopefully clinch today. And good goaltending matchup, too. Capo Kakinen back in goal for Charlotte. So, but yeah, no, watching Jake Schmaltz, he's really good on the faceoff dot, but you're not going to sign him, take up a contract spot for a specialist like that. So I'll be interested to see what the rest of the Providence roster looks like next season. I know Dom and I were talking a lot about it on yesterday's show, actually, just kind of running through who we'd want to bring back and whatnot. So I do have the sound muted. I can put it on, but I figured if we're going to be chatting over it, we probably, don't want the audio as loud. But what do you guys' thoughts on the roster so far being built down? I mean, Providence, a lot of RFAs next year.
Mm-hmm.
So Into the Den, we'll start with you. Are you looking at anybody in particular next year?
I need to actually look at the list of RFAs that Prov has next year.
Yeah, I'd pull it. I'd offer to read it off to you, but it's quite lengthy. So
that's fair. I guess while I'm looking for that list, since I wasn't around to offer my thoughts on the Jake Schmaltz signing.
Yeah, absolutely, sure.
Love the fact that he's good on the face-offs. Other than that, he feels very much like a jack of all trades, but not even like a jack, sort of like more of like a six of all trades. I don't mind him being in prop for this time. I don't really see him being someone that ends up cracking an NHL roster, but I think having someone that's that good at taking faceoffs is always a decent utility.
What I'm thinking they might be looking at him for is a potential replacement for John Beecher down the road. He does strike me as someone, because you're not, let's face it, you can't get any less offense out of John Beecher.
He may be my 1C at heart, but yeah, no. Beecher is almost Beecher almost provides negative offense at this point.
Well, I don't know if I'd say negative, Kenny. What do you think? I think he offers neutral offense. It's just more defensive-minded, kind of PK, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think, like you said, he offers more than just the goal scoring, though, so that's good. I think if he was just like that pure goal scorer sitting on the fourth line, putting up 7 points a year, that wouldn't be too good. But somebody who could play on the PK is huge. Having that forward with speed, I mean that's what he's there for. He's there to just be fast and kind of complement the two slower guys that are on his line.
Right.
I mean, so I said this earlier, but having Jake Schmaltz sign, it seems like kind of a return on our small investment, which I like. I like that a 7th-round pick is going to stay with the organization.
He's not the only one either.
Yeah, Ty Gallagher, right? Just signed too.
He just signed. He got his first goal the other day, last week. I mean, that kid looks. That kid. I've been watching that kid at development camp the last 3 seasons now, and I was really baffled by the season he had last year. His last year at BU.
Yeah.
Dom and I talked about it at length, and just to see him have the bounce back year is, it was incredible to see, and it really secured, like, hey, this kid can do this. So
yeah, speaks a lot to his mental to be able to go from BU and then go to Colorado College after having that rough season and end up putting up the numbers that he did.
Yeah, third on the team in goal scoring, in points, and leading the team for all but like 2 weeks of the year. The last 2 weeks. So yeah. And I really think he becomes your first line right defenseman in Providence now. Honestly, I think he's better than anybody that you had down there as a well-rounded defenseman, and the kid can eat minutes.
Yeah, Providence is tough right now. I mean, they lost Alec Regula and Jordan Osterley to waivers earlier in the year, but they signed a few other defensemen, or they traded for a few other defensemen. It's tough right now, especially for forwards to get minutes in Providence. It's tough, so that's why I'm kind of curious where Schmaltz is going to kind of fit into this lineup, because Providence has some very talented young players that kind of just rotate in on that third and fourth line. Guys like Duran, guys like Nelson, guys like Kuntar, who is a free agent next year, but he hasn't been able to really crack the lineup much. So it's unfortunate. But Ty Gallagher, very impressive in his first game against Wilkes-Barre Scranton. But I said it to somebody else earlier. It's easy to look impressive when the team's winning 10-2. So.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, his game is all around pretty solid. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people as a decent two-way defenseman. By no stretch am I sitting here going, oh, he's going to replace Charlie McAvoy. He's not. He's not. But if in 2 years your right side is McAvoy, someone, maybe Yoki Haru, he's done well, maybe not, and then you have Gallagher on your third pair, I'd be okay with that 2-3 years from now. So,
yeah, I'm excited to see what Callahan's thinking for the future as well, because I know I think he's a Group 6 UFA, so he could sign anywhere at the end of the season, and he's one of those guys that's kind of that defensive defenseman, and it's impressive because he was able to earn that AHL All-Star game appearance that he didn't appear, and he earned that. And there's definitely a few players on the team that made strong cases, and this is what I like about the AHL is that the coaches decide. So, Vinny Lettieri was top 5 in scoring during that time, and they still said, Michael Callahan's defense is better than Vinny Lettieri's offense, and that's saying a lot. But I'm glad he's able to get those minutes up in Boston right now.
Yeah. Anything that you want to add to that into the den? I'm looking up something before I comment on the Callahan part. I want to see what a particular team's left side looks like.
So with Callahan, I feel like the upside that we expect that we see is like okay if the right side it ends up being like McAvoy, Yoki Haru, Gallagher, or I don't mind a future in which Callahan is the left shot for Gallagher on that third pair. I think. I think that Callahan right now is getting some decent minute.
The only issues with that though are the long-term contracts you have for Lindholm, Zadorov, and you want to re-sign Lohrei. You're not taking him out, so Callahan, I don't see returning. Honestly, a team that I'd be on the lookout to try and nab him up would be Edmonton.
That's fair, yeah.
I can definitely see them trying to move off the Darnell Nurse contract and retain some. But they've also got a very, very movable Matthias Ekholm.
Yes, they do.
And he's only 34 right now, 35 in the last year of his contract, which is next year. So that screams get something for him while you can. And if you can bring in a guy like Callahan, who he's not the greatest offensive guy, but he can still move the puck.
Right.
So, again, I'm not saying he's going to end up being their second pair, but now if your left side goes Nurse and then they have Wallman, Kulak, and now your fourth guy is Callahan, that's not that bad.
Right. You're in a decent position in that case.
He's a very smart puck-moving defenseman, is what I would say. He's not going to be, scoring goals, but he moves the puck well.
Right. It's an underrated aspect to his game, similar to how it was for Brandon Carlo.
Very much so, yeah.
Like, you weren't going to have Brandon Carlo lead your breakout, but if he was the only defenseman on the ice, you'd go, oh, shit, he can do this.
I feel like if you had Carlo leading your breakout, something was very wrong.
Yeah, for the most part. Or line change, got caught with something.
Yeah.
Things happen over the course of a game, but he's not your first, second, or third choice at all. But it does happen. And he'll make the breakout pass, namely. That's a good puck movement option there. I'm just trying to look at other teams that might. I think there's going to be a massive movement in this offseason. I really do.
Which is kind of crazy because we just had an insane offseason last year.
We had an insane trade deadline.
Yeah.
You got Mikko Rantanen moving not once but twice. Now you've got a team like the San Jose Sharks who's got money to spend.
Didn't Kuzmenko also move twice?
Was it twice?
I think he was in that trade between the Flames and the.
He was. He went from Calgary and then he went. Yep, I think he did get moved twice. Good point. And I know Boston is still looking to move some money out too. Right. I know they're looking at that, and so it's who's the movable money,
Who's the movable money without like also a decent amount of retention?
I mean, if you have to retain, you have to retain. Going into the offseason, you're going to have two spots. I wouldn't be afraid to use them.
Right, yeah.
Kenny, I don't know about you, but I look at the goaltending market overall, and honestly, if I go in next season with Korpisalo and Swayman, I'm okay with that.
It's so tough, and both Bussy and DiPietro are UFAs at the end of the season. I think both deserve a shot to go earn an NHL backup job.
I don't think they're going to stick anywhere as an NHL backup. That's the thing. If you look at some of the goals they give up, yeah, they make some great highlights. They put the numbers up, but they're not. They give up some pretty weak goals. It looks like someone thought they had a goal here.
Well, I was about to say that looked like it.
Is that VL in front? Oh, it looks like they're going to take a look at it, or they called a penalty. I don't know. It's tough without the audio, but we're going to chug along.
Right.
Tufte looked like he scored that. Yeah.
Yeah. Tufte is another one that I really like. Riley Tufte and Jeffrey VL from what I've seen from them, and I really think they could bolster the fourth line. Maybe not next year. Maybe actually, I would rather have VL on the fourth line left wing next year than John Beecher. At this point,
that's fair. Yeah,
I was talking to Mark about this. It was so shocking because Georgi Merkulov got called up and then sent down, and obviously that took a lot of the attention. But Jeffrey VL had a sneaky good 3 games with the team. You didn't notice he was an AHL player. He got in deep, but that's the player he is. He's good all around. He's a huge asset to this team that I feel like gets overlooked a lot. VL brings. He's on the PK. He brings the physicality, and he's also really good at scoring here in the AHL. So
Jeffrey VL, I think, is got a better ceiling than Justin Brazeau.
I could see that.
Because Justin Brazeau couldn't win board battles to save his life. The guy played on his ass all the time. Jeffrey VL is a much better skater. He wins board battles. He plays just as physical. if not more so, because he stays on his friggin' feet, and he can find the back of the net more.
I was about to say, VL at least can skate properly. With Brageau, it felt like it took forever and an age for him to get anywhere.
Hey, Sully in the chat here. What's up, man?
Hey,
I know Sully and Mel are about to sit down and record their Something's Bruin pod. So if we're still on, Mike, and you guys are done and you want to jump on, let me know. I'll send over the link. I want to try and get some people to rotate in if they have stuff they want to say too. But throwing it in the chat's good as well. So yeah, he says he's on the pod right now. But yeah, I mean, we're just here having some fun. I've got a health issue right now, so I'm not drinking anything alcoholic, but have a nice little drink. Feel free to use you as well. It's what else you gonna do on a Tuesday night? But well, it looks like they opted not to award a goal, we'll say. So yeah, I mean, I don't even remember what we were saying before Sully jumped in and rudely interrupted, but
it was about Jeff VL being better than Brageau.
Oh, I mean, I don't think that's much of a stretch to say. So
right,
that trade for Brazeau is looking better and better each day.
I'm still surprised that we got that good of a return.
And honestly, I'm thrilled that they said "fuck off" to his. I want 3 by $1 million.
The problem with Brazeau to me is just his point production is just sitting in front of the net and praying.
Yep.
He's a one-trick pony. He's the definition of a one-trick pony.
And the problem is I don't think Boston has those guys right now that can feed him consistently in front of the net unless we're going to see Brazeau on the first line, and that's not going to happen. He's not a first-line guy, so.
Yeah, it's
10 goals from a fourth liner before the trade deadline even happens is unsustainable at any rate.
For a player like him, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I just don't. It's really funny because I know so many people shit on Don Sweeney around here, but I got to tell you, he's making good decisions. He really is.
It's just tough, I think, for some fans. Myself included, seeing what we got for Marchand initially, we were on the 6-hour-long BNG live stream of the trade deadline, and it was unbelievable because looking back at it, we initially thought that it was like Lundell and then 2 first-round picks, and we were like, wow, that's not enough for Brad Marchand. Little did we know that we were not getting anywhere close to that.
I saw that tweet come across, and I was like, I got to make sure that this isn't Elliot Freudman, like one of those accounts, because I had just hit refresh on Twitter and it said 13 seconds ago. I was like, okay, no.
Oh, there's a goal from Charlotte.
Oh boy.
Honestly, as soon as I saw second round pick as the only return for Marchand, I was like, wrong side of 35 with hips held together with chewing gum and twine and currently with an upper body injury. That's probably the best that we were going to get for him.
A little bit of duct tape too. Yeah, see, that's the type of goal right here. Bussy doesn't read the puck well enough to get across the net, and it's going to hold him back.
Yep.
He does this kind of goal too consistently. So I do got to say, Bruins meets comment here. Brown needs to go. I know he's talking about Patrick Brown. If you're of the opinion that Patrick Brown needs to go, you don't fully understand what his role here is.
It's unbelievable. His role in Providence, it's like, if you don't watch the team and you're just watching the NHL, I could see how you'd be upset with Brown. But a few weeks ago, Providence was playing against, I think it was Wilkes-Barre Scranton at home, and they went down 3 really early. They're on the back end of a 3-3, which is tough for at any level.
Oh, yeah, at any level.
Coach Mouginel said, he was like, I didn't say anything during that timeout. Patrick Brown got the guys going, and then they ended up coming back and winning the game. Patrick Brown ended up getting the game-winning assist on Merkulov's overtime goal with like 0.4 seconds left. So Patrick Brown being in the NHL, I don't know why he's such an asset for Providence.
Here's why he's in the NHL right now. 2 reasons. 1, you don't have another guy that you're ready to call up for your fourth line role. You just don't. You're not going to call up, okay, you could call up Jeffrey VL, but honestly, right now, I'd rather him finish out the year strong in Providence, go into the playoffs strong, and come. He's already under contract for next year. Give him a chance next year to come in and earn a spot out of camp. You're going to call up Tyler Pitlick. You're going to call up Riley Tufte. These guys aren't already waiver question marks, and you're certainly not going to call up Matthew Poitras and play him on the fourth line.
God.
So my question to Bruins me on this is, what did you think of Fabian Liesel's game the other day? Both of them, actually. I thought he looked pretty damn good. And if you agree with that statement, then that is the exact reason why you keep Patrick Brown around. Because this year in Providence, Kenny, I'm sure you can attest to it too.
Another one. Bad play from the defense, but
oh boy.
I feel like Bussy needed to have that as well.
I might have picked the wrong game to do this on. But what I would say, Kenny, you can probably attest to this year in Providence, Patrick Brown basically kind of, went over to Liesel and said, "Come over here, buddy. I'm going to take you under my wing. You're going to listen to me, and we're going to make you a professional." And he's matured significantly both on and off the ice, and now he's rounded out his game.
Yeah, so the lines were earlier in the season. It was always Merkulov with Letary, and that worked out amazing. It was awesome. They were both at the top of the AHL, and then they'd kind of rotate a third in, maybe a player like Harrison who's struggling to find minutes and stuff like that. And Liesel played with Brown, and then maybe Tufte, maybe VL, but he was primarily with Brown. In the AHL, Brown's a good goal scorer. He's a good second line guy. Brown played first line minutes as well. And having a guy like that in the locker room is just it's something that gets overlooked so much. And I know it's hard to see it when you're only watching the NHL and you're like, this guy isn't that good. But in the AHL, it means so much, especially with all these young guys and all the roster movement that happens. And I'm sure it was tough earlier in the season. Liesel struggled out of the gate. So in seeing guys like Merkulov get called up and seeing guys like Wahlstrom play 20 games and having a guy there that can kind of sit you down and say, listen, like, worry about yourself. Let's get out there. Let's start getting you going. It's huge. It's huge. It's more than what people can even imagine. And off topic, but unfortunately that goal, Miziol just got absolutely dangled in his own zone. It's his first game back in a while. I know he's dealing with some family issues following the trade, but that was a tough one to give up there.
Right.
Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of rust in that first game back. So I don't want to say I put no stock in it, but for who got beat after some time off, you can't really rip on the guy too much. So
plus first game with a new team as well.
Yeah.
Stuff.
And to your point too, with Brown, it just being able to say, like you said, don't worry about what's going on up there. Worry about your game. If he keeps doing what he's doing, the spot's going to open up, and you have to be ready to take it from him. Well, guess what? The spot opened up, and now he looks like he's taking the opportunity. He's looked pretty damn good in these last two games, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you have to watch him. I think people want these prospects to come up and start being these, superstar-like guys, but it takes time. It takes time to adapt to the NHL. The NHL is a new level for any AHL player coming up. It's just something that you need to adapt to. But when you watch him play in the finer stuff, he looks good. He's fast. I said it earlier. I was like, he needs to play with some confidence because that's when he's at his best. When he knows I'm going to attack the defenders with my speed and I'm going to create shot opportunities, that's when he's at his best. And when he's not doing that, he's hard to watch. So it's good to see that he's getting shots on goal. He's creating with his speed. I don't know what more you could ask, especially with, the team that's going on right now.
Right.
Yeah. He says, I'm fine with keeping one or two vets, but when you got Brown, Jones, Letary, Tufte, or whoever else was down there this year. So first of all, I get it. It's not what you want, but it's what the team wants, first of all. Second of all, some of those guys were brought in with a legitimate opportunity to earn a job. So Max Jones was given a legitimate opportunity in camp to win a fourth line or third line role on the NHL roster. He failed to do that. Now you're trying to move everything around, let him get up to speed, find his game. You want to try to call him back up. But instead, when you realize that it's probably not going to happen for you or for him in your organization, you include him in a deal and send him away at the trade deadline. You're not making that deal 6 weeks into the season. You're letting him get to the peak of what his game can be and then finding a way to move on from him. So, and again, Letary is another one who probably might not be back. That's why he's up in the NHL right now. These games for Letary and for Patrick Brown are literally to say, hey, thanks for all that you do. Here's an NHL paycheck, potentially on your way out the door.
I mean, in the last 10 games of I don't think really that much is going to change in the last 10 games of this NHL season for the Bruins. So having them up here at all, having them up in Boston at all kind of does feel like a decent parting gift. Also, hello, Alan. Good to know that you've been on and into the den in binge today. Definitely was getting a bunch of definitely wasn't getting a bunch of notifications during work with that. Thanks.
Hey, sometimes the mute button on the phone is the best. I did that today to get a few things done, and I when I was messaging with you, Kenny, I opened it up and I went, oh fuck, I have 16 notifications. Oh boy. And I just read through them. I was like, I'm not responding to any of them.
It's fine. It's fine. The Patriots Pro Shop is pretty much dead, and it's going to be even more dead after the draft. So I got ample opportunities to check them.
I didn't realize you worked up there.
Yep.
I used to work for the Revs.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, that career ended because of COVID. Thanks very much. So. Jones was given an ample opportunity to earn the third line, and then he failed the fourth line, and just it happens. He just wasn't a fit. So
it's tough. Jones, like I said, it's tough. Koepke really earned that spot, though. There was Jones would have to outscore Koepke in what he was doing in the preseason, and that's just it's kind of an impossible ask, honestly. Koepke was so good out the gates too with Beecher and Kaslik on that fourth line that was, scoring once a game. It's tough, but I think Don Sweeney made the right move, and then he added Max Wanner, who's been playing pretty well in Providence right now. So,
yeah,
you move some of that forward depth that you already have, and you get somebody on defense. So,
ooh, nice whiff right there. I'll take that.
Wait, the Pat signed Stephon Diggs. All right.
I was just gonna say, is this officially done?
I'll get Jordan on Heat Seal ASAP.
I didn't know that
from
it was
from the New York Times, Mass Live, Patriots Wire, Sports Illustrated, Newsweek. Yep, it's from like 10 minutes ago. The Patriots just signed Diggs to 3 years.
Oh, nice. Oh.
Yep.
Might actually be a reason to watch the Patriots again this year. Let's see. Don't. If you don't think this year is a waste, the Predators, who were like holding my whiskey. Yeah, I mean,
dude, your Predators put up 6-2 on us.
Honestly, though, like, what the fuck are some of these graphics? First, I looked over and I saw like chipmunks running across. And now I see dancing baby.
Dancing baby.
I promise this is not my computer. It's the stream. 3 years, 69 mil. Nice. So, I have to say, I've watched less football in the last 12 months than I ever have in a 12-month period, and I won more in family fantasy daily fantasy than I ever have. So, but hopefully they can work on mounting a comeback. I know Charlotte's going to be a tough game for them today too. So I honestly didn't even know who they were playing tonight. Once I saw the game, I was like, let me see who might want to do this. So
Charlotte just always feels like one of those teams that just has their shit together. Like like I don't know. It feels like it's been a while since I've seen the Charlotte Checkers actually be bad.
Yeah. Yeah, they're one of the ones to watch out for in the American Hockey League, but they are no Hershey Bears.
No, they are not. The Hershey
Not-
Bears are an unbelievable team. Unbelievably ran franchise the Capitals have right now. It's crazy.
I'm super interested to see what happens with Hunter Shepard.
Ooh.
Hunter Shepard was the goalie of the year. Him and Clay Stevenson were like the 1-2 in the league, and I mean that's unbeatable. Having those two guys, it's kind of like a better version of what we have in Providence right now, where it's like even if you get the worst goalie, like your night is nowhere near easy.
Hunter Shepard, though, he's been much more consistent for multiple years. So he's the kind of person that I look at and go, who's looking for that 2B, 3A kind of goalie? You know, like in Edmonton, where you're like, we need someone who can be behind Picard, but also be good behind him in case we have to rely on not Skinner.
Right.
You know, the goaltending market though this offseason is very weak. Now that there are a whole bunch of guys signed, so what do you guys think of Ravensburger?
Yeah, Ravensburg, and I haven't seen much of him. I only watched the United States National Team Development Program play Canada, and he was pretty sick. So I hear he's going to go pretty high in the draft, but I don't really know. Those are the only two games that I've seen him play, and I think he was left off the Team Canada World Junior roster, so we didn't get to see him there.
Yeah, it's it's the type of thing where it's tough to tell too. And I mean, he's decently ranked, but I haven't had enough chance to watch him in the W as much as I'd like. But they're going to be looking at a lot of goaltenders.
Providence's pipeline for goaltenders is actually pretty good. I mean, and that's what makes it tougher for Bussy and DiPietro to stay because they have Bischel in Maine right now.
Bischel's not an NHL goaltender,
but he's not an NHL goaltender, but he could be an AHL backup. And then they have
Svedbak.
Yeah, they have Svedbak coming up from Providence.
Svedbak though he's not projecting to be at best maybe a number 2 in the AHL. He's not projecting to be that good.
I could see Svedbak going back to Europe on a dime.
He needs to have a really good year next year to really stand out. And I'm sorry, but 2 goaltenders behind Bussy and DiPietro, that's not depth. You don't have guys fighting for these jobs. And if you don't have DiPietro or Bussy back next year, you don't have Svedbak either under contract. He's going back to college. And Svedbak on any game that's a back-to-back, boy, does he suck.
Right.
So that's why I wouldn't be surprised if Providence pulls up the upset in the first week of the NCAA tournament. But after that, everything's a question mark. Because when he gets more than one game in him, he can't do it. They gotta bolster their goaltending this year. They're definitely not going to do it in the first 3 rounds, but I hope they go after that kid from Maine, Boya.
Oh yeah, Albin Boya. He's insane. That semifinals game against Northeastern, just incredible how both of those goalies could just stay locked in for that long. And the other goalie, Cam Whitehead, made 60 saves. It's crazy.
Oh, Whitehead, yeah, that kid. I think he was drafted by Vegas. So talk about the rich getting richer over there.
I know. Oh my gosh, someone owes that kid a steak after that game.
Oh, no kidding.
Of course, the flukiest goal. Unfortunate. Just it goes through so many people, and then the other the main guy standing in like right next to the crease,
dude's on his fucking knees. The dude's playing knee hockey, getting that goal.
But that's the one that had to beat him. That's
No.
that's the one that had to go in for the game to end. I feel
Oh,
like
yeah.
both goalies were
And
just playing out
They
of their
didn't
mind.
lose. They didn't lose Reed Dick because they brought in Corpusalo. They opted not to extend Reed Dick a contract 2 months before that Allmark deal went down. So those two moves are unrelated. Reed Dick just didn't have it anymore. He really didn't.
Andrew is sad about that.
I mean, I understand, but
No more dick jokes.
trust me, I'm sure there are plenty around. In fact, let me just see. I wanted to see. I checked earlier. Yeah, even this year, he went back. He went to the WHL. He has a 3.56 goals against average and an 89 save percentage.
Oh,
So and that really is reflective of what he had 2 years ago. Last year was clearly just an anomaly.
mm-hmm.
He actually has been above 900 in his save percentage back when he was in U15, U18, and the first year of 2020, 2021, where he played 5 games in the MJHL for the Winkler Flyers. But the other 8 games he played that year, that was the COVID year, he played for the Swift Current Broncos, and he was at an 881 and a 410.
It was tough when we saw that we didn't get him, but I remember watching the Prospects Challenge for Utah, which was the team that he was signed to. He's not. I don't think he's actually
PTO,
signed. He was
yeah.
just we
Right.
had Andrew Oki for Boston, but obviously he's not signed. And I just remember watching him play, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is why we didn't give him a contract. He didn't look that great, and the competition was a lot higher in the Prospects Challenge. A lot of those guys are good AHL players or ECHL guys as well. He just, I don't know, he didn't look comfortable to me. So maybe that's where he kind of maxes out, or maybe he's just not ready. But I kind of agree with that decision not to resign him.
And there's 3.
Yeah. Yeah, those are bad numbers. And no, he may have said they listen, there's a lot of PR stuff when it comes to why players make decisions that they make. They are able to put whatever spin they want on it, but the fact of the matter is he just wasn't all that great. His name was fun, but that was about it. Well, this isn't going to be a fun game if this keeps up.
Yeah, tough start.
There was another kid. I'm trying to go back through the tournament. I think it was it Friday? There was another goalie though that was that Tongue kid, like Caleb Tongue or something.
Oh, is he UConn?
Maybe.
Callum Tongue?
Maybe it was Callum. Yeah.
I think he's the like the 1B of UConn, I think. He got injured in that semifinals game, and he ended up playing through it.
Yes, Callum Tongue. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it was. And he's only a freshman, so like I'm not saying, anything right now, like go and get him right now, but at the same time, like kid looked pretty damn good. And like you said, he clearly tweaked something, played through it. Only 13 games this year as a freshman, so I would expect him to go back next year. He's behind that other kid. I think Florida drafted him.
Yeah, Muslik. He was a USN DDP guy. So, and he transferred in. He was at UNH originally, and then he transferred to UConn. But as a freshman, splitting starts with a goalie of that caliber is pretty good in my eyes.
Yeah, and they could lose him this offseason because he could sign. Now that Spencer Knight is out of the way over there, they're going to need to start getting someone in the pipeline for as soon as Bobrovsky's contract is over.
Yep.
Yeah, they have Cooper Black. They have Cooper Black right now. He came out of Dartmouth. I don't know how he's doing this season. This is the first game this season where Charlotte's played Providence, so I haven't really gotten a good look at Charlotte at all. But yeah.
No, Cooper Black's had a good year. I'm of the belief you can't just have one goaltender in your system at a time. You've got to have 2 because you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, Theodore's returning to the lineup for Vegas.
That's a boost.
That is one hell of a boost that they need.
I will say too, like it sucks to have a down season. It always sucks to have a down season. I am not negating that. But of all the years to have one, if you look at the playoff bracket this year for both sides, yeah, I'm okay with that. Tampa went all in at the deadline. Florida added at the deadline, and they were already juggernaut teams. You weren't
Toronto
getting
also
anywhere
added at
close
the
out of the
deadline.
East. What's that?
Toronto also added at the deadline.
Yeah, some of that help came from you, but still, like if you just look at how this season is projected to go, right? Only one team comes out of the East. If you're Florida or Tampa or Toronto, if you're not that team, you're fucked. Like, I was looking at it a while, not too long ago, and I was chatting with one of my contacts, and I was like, the point that I made is if you're Tampa Bay, right? You look at your roster right now, you have no tradable assets. You don't have firsts, you don't have seconds. You have so many guys on no movement clauses, partial no trade clauses. If you don't at least make the cup final this year, how do you get better next year?
I agree. I need Columbus to take that second wild card spot for Johnny.
I really want them to. I'm rooting for them.
But yeah, I completely agree that, and like ultimately it feels like this is the Bruins team that we were expected to have for like the past couple of seasons, but Monty's offense was just had us playing way over our heads for 2 straight seasons, and it gave us an inflated sense of what of our team's expectations.
I don't know how much Monty's offense had to do with it as much as it just the bubble hadn't popped yet.
I think that's fair, yeah.
You get Krejci back, that adds to the room. You go on your all-time tear, and then you're still riding high from that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Don Sweeney had a great trade deadline to kind of soften the blow. I was so thrilled about the trades to Colorado and the trade to Toronto. I mean, just so happy to be able to get a guy like Fraser Minton and a first-round pick, and then getting Will Zellers and Casey Middlestad in picks as well. I mean, that's awesome. Yep. That's taking advantage of a team that is desperately trying to win now.
And absolutely.
I will also say the moment that I saw Husnudinov in like our first game against Minnesota this season, I was like, I want him on my team, and I'm so happy that he's.
I would have been. I was talking to Chris Javis. Shout out, drop the mitts. I hope he's watching. But I was talking to him, and he and I were in agreement. I would have done Brazeau straight up for Jacob Lauko. 1 for 1. I would have been in on that, and I would have been fucking thrilled. You tell me we got a pick on top of that and Husnudinov, and to see how good he's been.
If there's one thing that Sweeney is usually really good at, it is the trade deadline.
Here's the thing. Sweeney's fewest, largest mistakes are the one thing, or the top 3 mistakes that he's ever made are the 3 things that people always go back to say he's bad. He's done everything else good. 2015 draft, get the fuck over it.
Yep.
All right? I can't tell you how many times Dom Tiano and I have had the conversation. He's not the one who makes the draft picks. It's the scouting department. And it wasn't his scouting department. He had come from director of hockey operations and director of player development roles. He did not choose the scouting staff.
I think Dom and I had a conversation with Dom back at Dev Camp in 2023 where he said that we were going to initially take Robert Thomas in 2017, but PJ Axelson said no, we got to take Vakanainen.
Yep, and that's another one. That's another one. But again, he leans on his staff. Now, since the 2015 draft, he's overhauled the entire scouting department.
Mm-hmm.
The entire thing. And now it's his guys making the picks. And Kenny, you can attest as much as we've been talking about. They have guys in the system. Are they all going to hit? No. But we haven't even talked about Dan's Watch Mellis yet.
Or
Yeah,
John
I mean,
Farinacci.
yeah, Farinacci, he's an RFA at the end of the season as well. He's injured right now, unfortunately. I don't know if he's even on this trip, but yeah.
I don't think he is. I mean, he's an RFA that's earned his next spot.
Yeah.
He's earned another contract. So, you know,
Man.
and someone Tom and I talked about at length last night, Brett Harrison. You know, he's got the rest of this year. He's got next year on his deal. The kid, the talent is there. The ability to put it all together is the question mark.
I think that'll come with minutes. Brett Harrison's another one of those guys that just keeps rotating out, and he just cannot find that spot in the lineup that complements him well. And it's tough because Providence has like 4 or 5 of those guys that they just cannot find an everyday role for.
Were you at development camp last year?
I was not. This is my first year. I started in August.
So 2 years ago, if you were to have seen Brett Harrison at development camp, you would sit there and go, "Oh my God, dude, take a hit, give a hit." Into the den. Were you there for the development camp 2 years ago?
I was there for 1 day of dev camp in 2023. But yeah,
I think that was one of the times you and I were hanging out with Andrew, and that was the day Konstantinsky was doing his skating drill with McQuaid on the side,
like this.
But just if you remember watching Brett Harrison, you're like, dude, you're fucking, what is he? He's 6'2", almost 200 pounds. Hit something.
Yep.
Hit something. And he just wouldn't. And I can't tell you how many times he goes for a stick check along the boards just as a skate by, like, oh yeah, I forgot to do this on my way home. Like, and he just doesn't put it together. I don't know if minutes are going to help. That's the thing, you know? Because Kenny, he's played in 47 games last year. He's projected to do 51 this year. 100 games in the AHL, and you still can't play physical.
That's the thing. This Boston team, especially, like, you have to be physical. And this is what I was going to touch on earlier with Lysell. Like, you know, some people are going to look at everything, and then some people are going to look at the great that he's done, and then some people are going to look at the bad. And some of the bad is just the way he plays along the wall. But again, this is something that we've known this whole time. We knew he was not going to be that guy that's going to win every wall battle. We knew he wasn't going to be tough on the wall. Is there a way around it? Not really. It's hockey. It's played on the wall. You need to be able to play on the wall. It's just how it is. It's
yep.
Especially the Boston Bruins style of game. You have to be able to do it. And sometimes you can kind of grow into it. Sometimes you can't. And I don't know. It's so hard to notice a little bit with Brett Harrison because his line mates are typically, you know, guys like VL or guys like Abate, 2 guys who do it so well in the corner. So
I'm just doing this because they're between periods right now. We don't need to see we'll be right back with cars driving in the background for God knows how long. So
what is it? Board battles is honestly why. What is it? I remember at Dev Camp last year, Ian and I were pretty high on Jonathan Morello because the dude is 6'2", and he was wiping the floor with Dean Letourneau, who's 6'7", in board battle drills. And like when you have someone that willing to scrap up when it comes to board battles, especially on the Bruins, you might want to hold on to him.
And have you seen his season that he's having with Dubuque right now?
I've not yet. No.
Dude's having a decent first season with Dubuque. He's got, let me pull it up. I want to say he's pushing 30 points. Let me get him pulled up here. Yeah, he is 8 goals, 19 assists in 54 games.
I was so happy when he flipped his commitment from Clarkson to BU. It's so much better. It's so much better. Clarkson used to be one of those powerhouse schools in the ECAC. I live 2 minutes from Quinnipiac. I had season tickets for years and years and years, and Clarkson was always that team that was, kind of like a Quinnipiac where they didn't have that star power, but they had guys that stuck around for 4 years, and they were just a tough team to play against.
Right.
But now they're not that team anymore. So I'm glad that he
No.
flipped his.
Yeah, they like having their kids right down the street. But you mentioned Quinnipiac, and my God, Chris Pelosi looks good.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
so
that's
excited
second
for
half.
Pelosi.
Oh
Ever
man,
since getting cut from Team USA, it's been great, and I think it was great for both teams because I think it was Casey Terrance or it was going to be Chris Pelosi, and Terrance played well, and US ended up winning a gold, and Chris Pelosi's almost a point per game in the second half of the year. So like I said, I think it worked out for both parties there.
yeah, I'm excited. I don't want people to get overly excited about Pelosi. I don't see him coming out this year. He's definitely got more development to do in the NCAA, but
Right.
yeah, and you don't want to rush some of these guys along. I mean, he's only 20 years old, and he's in a good program. It's not like you said. It's not like he's in Clarkson, what it is now versus what it used to be. So
Yeah, Rand Pecknold too, just a fantastic coach, and we've seen some great players, especially defensemen. I was so excited to see the Bruins pick up Elliot Gronwald in the draft
oh
because
my God,
I know.
that kid.
I was happy. I loved seeing Grunwald at Dev Camp. It was great.
Talk about a minutes eater too.
Mm-hmm.
Kid's playing so much right now.
Yeah, him and Bollinger doing great work at Quinnipiac, but that's kind of like what Rand Pecknold does. He has guys like Chase Prisky, guys like Devon Tays, guys like Connor Clifton, but you also have to let him work a little bit. You have to let Elliot Gronwald stay for 3 years at Quinnipiac to get the most out of him, in my opinion. So,
Yeah,
but obviously I'm biased because big Rand Pecknold fan. So,
well, no, it's true, and I think in an ideal world you have Gronwald and Pelosi there for 2 more seasons. However, depending on how next year goes, you're in a position where you might be able to get them out early.
yeah, and this season was such a question mark for Quinnipiac because they got hit so hard. Their whole top line left. Quillen went to Toronto, Graf went to San Jose, Lipkin went to Utah, and that was their fallback plan, really. I mean, Quinnipiac had depth, but that first line did the majority of the work. They threw out the first line, and you knew they were going to score goals, and that's how they won a national championship. Was that great defense that Rand Pecknold instills and that first line? So it was tough, and like I said, I was questioning how Quinnipiac was going to play this year, and Chris Pelosi's play that back half of the season really helped them take that ECAC regular season championship, whatever it's called. But yeah, and now I'm so excited for the regionals. I think they're in a great regional where Quinnipiac can make it out, UConn can make it out,
and they play each other in the first round.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I love. I love like sitting on the edge of my seat. The Boston College Bentley game. I'm not going to be at the edge of my seat, for whatever that score is going to be.
I was going to say, even Cornell, Michigan, like you can make a good case for Cornell. I'm not betting against Trey Augustine.
Yeah.
In that one, but like you can make a case for Cornell. You can make a case for pretty much anybody in the tournament. I think, like you said, minus that BC Bentley game, you're kind of like, probably not. So,
well, that's the thing. It's just it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a fun game to watch, and we get to see our Boston Bruins' future on the highest stage. We get to see them play in some of the most important games that they're ever going to play. Maybe, who knows, if they don't make it to the NHL. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, Yelvik he's done for the year. Letourneau, I'm not expecting any minutes out of, maybe 5 or so. I mean, he might not even dress, but really, it's Gasso for Boston College that, I really hope he can shine through. We got them coming back out on the ice for the second. So I'll share the screen everybody cares the most about. Let's be honest.
Well, I don't know. It's 3-0. So maybe it's more on us now.
Hey, didn't they have one earlier this year when they came back like 4-0, like by 4 goals or whatever?
I think it's happened a few times. The most recent was that Wilkes-Barre Scranton game that I touched on earlier, where they were down 3 within 5 minutes and then ended up coming back.
Yeah, but you know what? They don't have Patrick Brown though, so
Right.
Yeah.
But he
I think-
sucks, so we can't praise him for any of it.
Yeah, well, this team is also kind of depleted. Jake Gaudette, I mean, Evan Gold masterclass with that move, trading Drew Bavaro, loaning him to I think Cleveland for Jake Gaudette. Jake Gaudette, 5 points in 3 games. Just talk about bursting onto the scene. Unfortunately, he's injured. Pitlick's dealing with a family issue, and Pitlick's huge part of this offense as well.
Mhm.
And John Farinacci obviously still injured, and like we said earlier, not even on this trip. So
Yeah.
depleted for sure.
Bavaro, I just sit here and I go, I don't even know if I want him back next year.
No.
No.
He I think he played like 20 games this season for Providence. He wasn't really that noticeable. He's kind of like
See,
that hover guy.
in my mind, if you do Drew Bavaro out, Jake Schmaltz in, you're no worse off. The difference, though, is if Schmaltz is truly on an AHL contract and you can put him up in Maine, if you have to, you just send him down to the ECHL for a little while. That's actually a better predicament than if you have Drew Bavaro on a 2-way contract.
Yeah.
Well, it's way better now because Providence has a few better defensemen. They got Warner, obviously, and then Miziel's starting to play again. But they also signed Chris Ortiz. I think I don't know if he signed or he's a loan.
He was on PTO last I knew.
Yeah, so and he's one of those guys that eats minutes, and he's smart with the puck. So
I think he is insurance in case they can't or they decide not to sign Jonathan Nierenberg.
He's solid. I'm not saying he's going to be an NHL guy. Chris Ortiz, great AHL guy to stand in there and wait. I heard Nierenberg is has been practicing with Providence.
He has. They're getting the look they need to on him because their deadline for him is June 1st.
Yeah, and he's been injured. He's only played 18 games.
Yeah, he missed over 30 games this year because of a lower body injury. So, and when he came back, he did not look good right away. And it took him a little while to kind of get back up to speed, but there were still times where, you looked at it and you're like, are you not healthy or are you just like, hey, we're facing relegation, I don't give a shit mode?
Yeah, and what was it? Was he 1 point or was it 0? He didn't register a lot of points. And granted, with the young defenseman, that's not everything, but I mean,
no, I can't. The problem is you can't put any stock in Nierenberg's season this year because of the injury and because of how much time he missed. The only thing you could put stock in is what was his attitude when he came back. We will never know that. And also now you have to figure out how's his body holding up because he is only 21. But if he missed that much time, it's not only going to cost you the transfer fee to get him over here, but you got to buy out an additional year of his contract and you got to pay for his entire ELC. So the first year, Dom and I did the math. He got the numbers because he is eligible to go to Providence. Normally, you'd have to decide, is he going to your NHL roster or your AHL or going back over because
until he's 24.
Right.
But because of when he was drafted, he's grandfathered into the age 22 rule or the 21 rule. Because of when he was drafted, he's grandfathered into the old policy. So they can send him to Providence. They still have to buy out the last year of his contract with his SHL team, with Linkoping. They have to pay that. They have to pay the transfer fee alone. And his ELC is going to be roughly $800,000 in the first year. Altogether, you're spending about $1.5 million just for that first year, and you have another 1.5 on the last 2 years of the deal collectively. So they've got it's only money for us, but someone's got to pay that bill.
Right.
You got to be damn sure that he's a $3 million value over 3 years.
You got to make sure he's going to be healthy. That's my thing. He needs to be healthy. It's non-negotiable. If there's any concern,
if he's healthy, he's worth the money. But that's why you had to get him over here. That's why he's skating with Providence. But he's on loan. Oh, that looked like it was gonna. That had a shot.
That had some Chinese mustard on it.
So, but I really think Ortiz is that plan B to Nierenberg.
Somebody who I talk really highly of, especially this season, is Freddie Brunet. I don't.
Oh yes.
The amount of growth that I've seen from just last year to now is incredible, really. And again, I don't know his ceiling. He's not really anything. He's not really a defensive defenseman. He's not really an offensive defenseman. He's kind of like that hybrid. But I like seeing him get these first PP minutes here.
The
He's
dude
been
can
playing pretty
move
well.
the puck. The
Yeah,
dude can move the puck. So honestly, he's the type of he's a player that I look at and I go, you can only screw this up. Listen to the coaching, take to the coaching. They will tell you what you need to do. Go do that, and you'll be fine. Go do something else, you'll screw yourself.
Yep.
and Providence had kind of a long line of quarterbacks for their power plays. At the beginning of the season, Jordan Osterley I think he had like 9 points in 7 games. He was incredible. And a lot of that was because he was the quarterback of that first power play. And then the second power play was Ian Mitchell, who was also an incredible quarterback of the power play. His stats were like 1 goal, 17 assists until he started shooting the puck a little bit more. But
Yeah.
and this is great. Like, this is something that we talk about the NHL opportunities, but this is a huge opportunity in the AHL for him to show what he has offensively, and he's done a great job so far.
Right.
Yeah, I think he'll be, like you said, the growth from beginning to now has been incredible. Now let's see him do it again.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, and I mean, just looking through the roster though, it's just kind of, do you want to back? Do you not want to back? How do you see him fitting in? My only issue, I guess you could say, playing that game, like I said, I know they want to move money out on the big club. The question is how do you do that? That makes the most sense. Like, I know a lot of people go with Morgan Geeky, but first of all, he's not big money right now. Second of all, he can play with your top line forward grouping. Now you're playing him away from Pasternak, and he's still playing well. Got to see it for a little bit longer, of course, but if he can keep up with Pasternak, you don't have to separate them. I really like the fact that we're seeing them juggle some of the top lines right now.
Yeah, finally.
Yeah.
And I love the potential of that Hustadinov, Middlestad, Pasternak line.
Anything with Hustadinov right now is just getting me excited.
Mm-hmm. I still want to see a line of Husnudinov, Middlestat, Lysell. I think that young speed and offensive potential can be very, very interesting.
I can see that. I also wouldn't mind, and this might be more of a preseason play, just because you'll make your other moves around this, but I wouldn't mind seeing Zacha go back to the wing and seeing what he can do. If you were to do like a Zacha, Middlestead, Pasternak line, because Zacha does have a really good shot. He just doesn't use it enough.
Right.
And that's what makes him a better center. But if you can put him with a center who can get him the puck in the right positions, in the right spots, along with a winger on the other side in Pasternak who can do that and shoot the puck, if he can find that, I know it opens up a spot down the middle, but I mean, based on what you have in your pipeline, you're able to replace Pavel Zacha in the middle. That's a spot Matthew Poitras can slide into.
I remember when we made the there we go.
There we go.
Finally on the board. But I remember when we made the signing for Elias Lindholm. I said this with the thought that Lindholm was going to be good enough to be on our top line. That the value in this contract, that the money in this contract is worth it, partially for the talent and partially for moving Zacha back to the wing. It's just so happened that didn't really happen.
No, and I can tell you this year, Elias Lindholm has not looked nor felt settled in.
Right.
It just hasn't been a thing. So, he's one of the dark horses, and actually Bruins Meat also mentions Hampus Lindholm. What's he going to look like after the injury? That is a big question mark. There are 3 guys that I'm looking at as potential pieces that could move in the offseason to fit that bill of we want to move off of some big money. Pavel Zacha is one. Hampus Lindholm is the other. But the dark horse I have is Elias Lindholm.
Mm.
Just because he has a no movement clause doesn't mean he won't waive it.
Right.
And just because he has a high contract value doesn't mean you can't move him.
Right. I think yeah, after this injury that had him out for pretty much the entire season, even with even with speculation of he'll be back after the Four Nations break. Oh, he'll be back after the deadline. But with him being out this much on the wrong side of 30, that is something that people should be taken into account with what you do with him in the off season.
He's also an upgrade on D for so many teams.
Right.
Even if he is 70%.
Mm-hmm. Hell, I'd take 70% Lindholm over whatever the fuck our left side is right now.
Kenny, what do you think? It looks like you're doing a lot of digging over there.
Yeah, I'm just I'm posting the goal right now. I can't believe it. Jackson Nelson, first goal of the season. Congrats to him. But
Wow.
yeah, I know. Well, Jackson Nelson's a guy that creates chances, but he can't score. And I honestly think that that's something that's like because he hasn't been able to get the minutes. It's just the game when you're trying to like score, it's so much different than practice. You could practice it a million times, but when the adrenaline's rushing and you're standing right in front of the net in the game, it's so different. But to what you were saying, I mean, I honestly think that we could definitely move on from some of these long-term contracts that we have on defense. It's kind of just getting crazy that I think what was it, top 4 were signed for 4 years longer, and we got rid of Carlo already, and then Lindholm. It's whatever, either or. It's tough because I feel like we were just seeing what he could really do, but looking at the seasons before, like it's not really a big loss in my eyes.
Right.
No, I think it would be a huge loss. It's just since you don't know what he's going to look like after the injury and like into the den, like you said, wrong side of 30, signed for decent money. I mean, he is the type of player, him and Elias Lindholm too. I put in the same category of if I'm a team that's needing to get to the cap floor and I'm trying to better my team, he's probably better than what I already have. And it's a significant enough cap hit to help me get to the cap floor or stay above the cap floor. Like that, I can almost guarantee you that is why we did not see John Gibson move this year, because John Gibson helped Anaheim stay above the cap floor.
I feel like soon, either during this this upcoming free agency or during next year's deadline, we're gonna see Anaheim go ballistic with their cap space.
I've heard they're preparing to make a big run at Mitch Marner.
I completely buy that.
Now, whether they land him or not is a whole different story, but
right.
I mean,
I would love that.
We made
Take
a
away from
half-ass
Toronto.
push. Oh yeah, I mean, we made a half-ass push for John Tavares, so half-ass because we knew we weren't going to get him, but you still go through the song and dance. Ugh.
It's tough with Marner because I know Marner is a big Toronto guy. He wants to stay with that team, but I don't know if Toronto even has the money to really bring him back because what is it? I think it's Nyes, Tavares, and Marner are all free agents at the end of the year, so it's going to be difficult.
Nyes at the very least is an RFA.
Yeah, Nyes is someone I look at and I go, they better be fucking careful with him because he screams offer sheet.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was thinking.
And honestly, if I'm Boston, I look at it and I go, yeah, I'd give up my. I mean, we don't have our second, but wait and see what they do because they also have Pontus Holmberg, who's an RFA. They're going to lose. They have to re-sign Tavares. So right now, Tavares and Marner take up $21 million. All right.
Right.
What are you going to do? Re-sign Tavares at 4 and Marner at 14, and now they drop to 18? You didn't exactly gain a lot. You gain like $3 million in cap space. Even if you save a few bucks on Mitch Marner and you got him at 13, well, are you really going to be able to get Tavares at 4? You probably might have to go to 5 on him. Well, Alan, you say an offer sheet won't be allowed in the boys' club, but we just saw St. Louis do it to Edmonton twice. So I think now that the cap is about to go where it's going to go, offer sheets are going to become a thing again.
I still can't believe if even like 2 or 3 years later, of freaking Carolina offer sheeting in Kokoniemi and paying him that much, and then a $20 signing bonus just because Sebastian Aho. There is I feel like in the NHL there is no team that is a bigger troll than the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, and Alan, as you said, they are still rare, but that's because they're a new thing. Things are rare until they're not. Deferred money has been rare, but we're starting to see that more and more now that it's out there. Now that teams know how to do it. So, all it takes is one team. It's a copycat league. One team starts to do it, and they'll all start to do it once they see that it works. So
I think it's a great idea until somebody, tries to take someone from Boston. But I think it's exciting. I think
that's just it.
I'm excited to see more, honestly.
Well, let me ask you this: if you look at Boston's roster and you look at our RFAs, right? Morgan Geekie, if someone makes you an offer that you look at and go, "I'm not matching that," you're probably okay with the draft pick compensation.
Yep.
Because if you're not okay with the draft pick compensation, you're going to say, "Thank you so much for negotiating for us. We signed that deal now."
Mm-hmm.
If that happens to John Beecher, if anybody offer sheets John Beecher to the point where you get a draft pick, I'm going to say, "Thank you. I've got Jeffrey Vial." I'm good with that. Hustadinov, again, are you going to match it? Is someone going to come in and say, "Here's $3 million for 5 years to make you go, I don't want to match that. I'll take what is that? A 3rd round draft pick, a 2nd round draft pick or something?" Like, if someone else wants to take that risk, I will let them take it.
Exactly. Like you said, if you're not willing to match the offer that some other team is making, then okay.
Maybe I'm too high on Hootsie, but I would still match 3x5 or 5x3.
I mean, I want to see the rest of the year before that's why I'm throwing it out there.
Yeah.
And I'd have to go and see what the new compensation is going to be. But for a 2nd round pick, that basically means you will have traded Brazeau for 2 picks and Lauco. A 2nd rounder, Jacob Lauco, and what was the other one? A 4th rounder or something?
A 4th round, I think.
That's still a win in that deal.
That's still, yeah. That's basically what we got for Frederick.
And Kenny, let me ask you this. Do you really think Don Sweeney is the type of general manager who wouldn't consider what would happen if another team offer sheets his player?
No, I think every team is going to be like that, though. I think every team needs to have that plan, that hard line of, listen, if an offer sheet does come in and it's over this number, then we're just going to take our pick and walk away. And honestly, like I said, I really like Hustadinov. He's an exciting player. He's something different, I think, for this team that's usually kind of that gritty team. Having a shorter guy who, tries his best out there. Even though I did just write an article and I touched on this, Hustadinov had 37 hits with the Minnesota Wild in the 50-something games that he plays. He already has 11 in the 8 or 9 that he's played in Boston. So he is trying to adapt a little bit. But
the other thing too is his hits are one of those so subjective stats that, if you get the right guy in the arena, you could walk away with 7 hits in one night. You get the other right guy in the arena, you didn't hit anybody.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, 57 games to only have 37 hits. I can see it with Boston because, I mean, it's really small sample size, but 57 games only having 37 is like, it's kind of tough. And I'm surprised Boston kind of went after that move. But shout out to Dennis Bonvi's crew, because this is what Don Sweeney said at the presser. He said that they were looking for guys that, were undervalued, guys that should be getting more minutes on their team and weren't. And then now they're getting those opportunities in Boston. And I think the players that we got are making the most of that opportunity.
Absolutely. I'm checking to see if Puckpedia's updated their draft pick compensation offer sheet. Let's see. I can't tell if this was updated or not, but based off of where it is, brackets are from 2024 off season. They'll be higher and announced date in June. So yeah, I mean, we really have to wait a while for that. But even still, they're not going to go up drastically. So for a third round pick, you're between 1.5 and 2.29 million on a contract. If you're not willing to match, we'll call it 2.3 million on a player, then take the third round pick and say see you later.
Mm-hmm.
Boston is able to they're able to qualify they don't have their own second. Oh no, there isn't. Oh, it's the 2026 second rounder. Okay. So they do qualify to give up a second round pick. Because it's all based off the 2026 second round. Okay. That makes it even more interesting. Because I just pulled up the RFA list. And you got some interesting names coming up here. And if teams aren't careful, offer sheets will be going out.
Part of me wants to see us try and offer sheet Marco Rossi.
Yeah. They've got to worry about Kaprizov's next deal.
Mm-hmm. And what is it? They gotta sign Faber long term at some point.
They already did.
Oh wait, they already did? Right.
Yeah, he's got an 8-year deal that kicks in next year, if I remember correctly.
Ah, gotcha.
Just trying to remember if it was 8x8 or whatever. So,
Oh, good on them, because he freaking deserves that.
oh, you know what? That's 2 years out, but where are they? There might be. Vegas will be interesting to see. Vegas going into next year right now only has about $10 million. They're losing Riley Smith, Brendan Saad, Olafson, and Schwind on up front, and Nicholas Haig and Ilya Samsonov. So they're missing. They're going to be losing some key guys. I could see someone offer sheeting Nick Haig.
I was about to say, of those, I could absolutely see someone going for Haig.
Because an offer sheet. An offer sheet would be you could offer them 4.5 mil and really put them in a bind, because that's almost half of their offseason cap space. Of course, at that point, they would be able to. They're another one. Nick Roy, Brett Howden, Keegan Colasar, Zach Whitecloud. All of a sudden, those guys get dealt off just to save a few bucks. I think a name, if Tampa doesn't win this year, or honestly, even if they do, a big name to watch this offseason, believe it or not, Brandon Hagel.
I would love to see. I would love to see Hagel in a Bruins uniform.
Oh no, I would say, watch for him to go to like Utah.
The point still stands. I would love to see Brandon Hagel in a Bruins uniform.
Yeah, why can't we get players like that, right? Where have I heard that before? This game's kind of settled in nicely. Getting some back and forth here. Can't believe both teams are already over 20 shots. Why can't our NHL team shoot like this?
Our offense can't generate enough momentum, and our defense can't generate can't get the puck out of the zone enough for the offense to get that momentum.
I know, but there's another one. Another one for Charlotte. Oh boy.
Oh, is that from employee RV?
Yep.
Man, Miziel again out to dry.
Remember when employee RV was going to be something?
Yeah, but still, Bussy needs to. Bussy needs to have that.
He needs to have that.
He played that so poor. It's just a basic breakaway.
It's tough though. A breakaway, and he's in alone, so it's not like there's any help for him. Bussy keeps coming out too far. I think it's.
Yep.
He keeps trying to challenge a shooter, and he doesn't really have that quickness to get back, and it just keeps biting him. Especially tonight. This is like the perfect game to be talking about it.
Yeah, but he does this too frequently, and it's not repetitive in games like it is tonight normally. It's spots, and so it's like, oh well, they won it 3-2 or they won it 4-2, but it's like the 2 goals he gave up on his 18 shots should have been saved. It should have been a shutout or something like that. So it should have been a 1-goal game. We talk about Swayman's getting a shitstorm right now, but how many times is he being left out to dry? People still want to blame him.
Well, for what I said earlier about them going and trying to earn that spot, I'm not saying that they are going to earn it, but I think the way that they've played, I could see the world where they want to bet on themselves and go somewhere where that spot is open. Not that they're even, going to have a chance, but it's either you stay in Boston and that you're never going to have that opportunity, or you can go somewhere where, maybe you have a really good training camp and a really good preseason, and then you sneak into that backup role, and then anything can happen from there.
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And Bussy had a real tough start to this season, and then DiPietro just hasn't slowed down, and it sucks for DiPietro because he is a really good goalie, but his size is just it's tough when you watch the AHL because it's like you go there and you watch him play and you would not know that he's an undersized goalie because of just how well he presents himself to the shooters and just how well he moves. But when you're watching the preseason, you could definitely tell that he's a shorter goalie. And I think both Bussy and DiPietro kind of struggled in the preseason. DiPietro played, I think a few periods here and there, and then Bussy took a lot of the action as well. Just it didn't really move me really for both of them or either of them. I know a lot of people right now, it's a hot topic since you were saying Jeremy Swayman kind of just getting dunked on all around Twitter right now. But DiPietro with the numbers that he's put up, I mean, I don't really know. And the problem is Korpisalo has been a good backup as well. I think that people are upset that we have Korpisalo, but he's been what he's supposed to be, and he's been a good backup.
Ooh.
I just saw Michael Haig is going to be returning to University of Michigan.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Good shot from Potsy there.
There is
Patrick's confidence in the AHL is unbelievable. Why can't he take these shots in the NHL? I don't know why.
But speaking of Swayman, actually, apparently Zadorov, after I think after practice today, further clarified his no comment
I was just watching that video.
Yeah.
I was just seeing that.
That's what I got out of it was out of the initial thing was just that you're asking this after they got jobbed 7-2. I don't think that this is indicative of any sort of major frustration in major interpersonal frustration within the locker room. But Boston sports media always loves to have that sort of drama drum up no matter what.
Yeah, I said this to Dom yesterday. My interpretation of it was the very like I was taken aback by it at first, and then I went, well, wait a minute, was he even on the ice when that whole thing happened? And I went back and I looked, and I was like, no, he's on the bench. I couldn't tell. Maybe he was having a conversation with a coach, but when it was all broken up, he kind of was standing there like looking around, like, what the fuck just happened? How did we get here? And
how did we get here with a third goal?
No. How did we get here? Well, that's the story of the season right now.
Yep.
But it just one of those things where he didn't know what happened. He wasn't sure. And in the wake of a loss like that, that's not the topic of conversation right after the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's, hey, guys, we've got to get out of here. We've got to go to Anaheim. Here's what you got to do. Get done. Go do your media stuff. Boom, boom, boom. And then the way that question was thrown in there was kind of a last-minute thing. So to me, his reaction was like, oh, is that what he was doing? I have no idea what happened. So I'm going to opt not to comment.
Yeah.
I just think it's funny that people are trying to sit there and say that it's dividing the locker room.
People want to find in a headline in absolutely everything. And it can be frustrating.
Yeah. I don't think there was I called it a nothing burger.
Yep. That's exactly what it was. It was a nothing burger.
Well, oh my God. Bussy beat what was that? Oh.
Bussy beat a shot challenge difficulty seemingly impossible. What the hell?
And it's funny because this team hung 7 the other day.
Yep.
And he wasn't even oh my God, beat clean. Beat clean, glove side, like just he didn't even move.
Why are there stones flying around? What the hell?
He closed his glove though.
Yes.
Which tells me he saw the shot. Oh boy, this one just not. I wish I had done this during the 7-2 win.
Or the 10-2 win.
Yeah, the 10-2 win. That would have been nice. But the thing is in this instance, people are going to say, well, the defense. No. Overall, the defense has been fine.
Yep.
Yes. What's his name got handled one time, but Monsieur got dangled. But I mean, that last goal, all Bussy.
Yep.
And I know, Kenny, was it you who had a comment about Patra's shot earlier?
Yeah, I mean, Patra in the AHL is just he's so confident, and you can see it. He's also not taking shit from anybody. We've seen him get into a few scuffles. He just looks like a completely different player when he's playing with other guys who kind of have that skill. You know, I just don't think Boston had the players that could complement Patra well. You could see him getting frustrated when he's making these beautiful passes to Coyle or Frederick, and they're just not finding the net. But in Providence, they do. Georgi Merkulov finds the net in Providence well. He also makes beautiful passes, and he's playing alongside Wahlstrom too, who does a fantastic job finding the net in Providence. He has no problem scoring goals.
Let me ask you guys this. I'll start with you, Kenny. Wahlstrom, you bringing him back next year?
Man, it's tough because with some of these guys like Merkulov, I'm a huge Merkulov guy. My only point was, listen, I like these guys. I think that they could be NHL players, but you also have to give them a chance. And I feel like Wallstrom got that chance and then put up 2 points in 20 games. So you can't really be too upset if you get rid of him. If he wants to hover around that AHL, NHL, if he wants to be on that bubble, then sure, bring him back. He's a great AHL guy. He's a first-line AHL guy. He has an NHL shot, and that's what he does in the AHL right now. He's just beating goalies clean with his shot. But if he's expecting a full-time role in Boston, then I don't know. Probably not.
ITD, what about you?
About the same. I feel like ultimately Wallstrom falls into the category of players that is probably too good for the AHL, but not good enough for the NHL. And it just puts you it sort of just puts you in kind of a weird situation where that's concerned. But if he's gonna continue to gain at least some sort of if he's going to gain momentum in Providence, I think honestly the big problem for me was we claimed him off waivers and immediately immediately he was thrust into a lengthy stretch of play time when he clearly had not adapted to any sort of system that we had, whatever system still remains of it. And I think with maybe one more year in the fold, you could see something develop out of that. But at the same time, I feel like there are others that you want to give that opportunity to as well.
Yeah, for me, his qualifying offer is $1 million. So, given the fact that right now your right side in Boston is looking like it's set to be Pastrnak, Lysell, unknown, and then who's going to be on the right side there? That would probably end up being. I mean, you don't have to bring Kepke back. Could be Vinny Lettieri if you bring him. Like, I'm not huge on bringing Lettieri back. So, who are you sticking on the right side? I mean, I want Kostelic on my fourth line center spot. I don't want him on my third line right wing, but he's next on the list. And then you could make a case for Morgan Geekie in that side of the depth chart, but I want to keep him on the left of Pastrnak.
I'm so happy with how much Geekie has developed with us. It's so crazy that in this season alone, he's put up more goals than he had in all 4 years of play before getting to the Bruins.
I just don't think he was being put in positions where he could use his shot.
Yeah,
shoot.
Exactly. That was the case. Unfortunately, I am gonna have to dip out after the second period, but this has been a fantastic time. I've loved having these conversations with y'all, and I hope that you guys will have me on for more of these fun game streams later.
Yeah, keep an eye out. I'll put the notice out again coming up for another game. I got to look forward at the schedule and see, but it's turnout's doing well, so we'll hopefully we'll be able to do this a lot more frequently during these games. But I know people do it during the Boston games, but let's share some Providence too, because even though this game hasn't been, they're not winning, like they're still only down by 2.
Right.
Like, let's not forget that this still is a winnable game.
This has been a competitive games. We were joking earlier that we may have picked the wrong game. I think we picked the exact right game for this. But this has been real fun, and I'll see you guys later.
Absolutely. Thanks for jumping on.
See ya.
I'm going to check in with Sully and see if they're still recording their show, because I know Mel had something going on. I'm able to stick around if you are.
Yeah, I'm good.
As I say, don't feel like you have to stick around or anything.
No, I'm good. I usually take time out to watch all these Providence games anyways, so I was like, I'm not doing anything. Have it on the screen over here. We have it on the screen up here. Flow hockey is just amazing.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah, well, even us at B&G, the relationship is really good. So, and sorry for taking time to, post the videos and stuff like that. I know
No,
it's,
it's fine. You got your own thing going too, and right
yeah,
now my operation's solo. I'm familiar with what you guys do over there, so it's it is what it is. You got to there's enough room in the pond, so
yeah, it's just the relationship is so good. And I'm glad Mark gave me the opportunity to post videos like this. It's awesome. I love being able to share it because for some people they don't have the time to watch these games. Some people like watching college. Some people like watching the Bruins, and some of these games are on tough nights, like a Tuesday night in Charlotte. So being able to bring people that stuff is I love it. So
yeah. I was looking at the college schedule too for this coming weekend, and I'm like, Friday, the first game, BU Ohio State, 2:00. Like, really? I mean, like I said, I'm not working right now. I'm dealing with stuff, so I'll be able to watch it. I'm thrilled by that, but I'm just like, oh man, if I wasn't, I'd be watching it on my phone on my desk, at work.
yeah, I'm in college right now, so freshman, but and I do online, and I love it because you kind of set your own schedule, so then I can set time aside to do stuff like this and watch the games. And it's tough. Hopefully next year I'll be able to make it out to more Providence Bruins games. I was only able to make it out to one as a media guy, and that was great. It was the first game of the season. But yeah, man, school's been tough, but
They
I'm
do.
glad that I'm able to watch these
They,
games.
they have a good program over there for it, so I'm a little over an hour away myself, so I don't. It really takes a lot for me to plan to actually go and do some of that. Some of the other one, I mean, it where I'm at, I'm like an hour away from all of them.
Yeah, I'm
So
2 hours away from both Boston and Providence. I'm on the lower side of Connecticut, kind of like that New
I
York
could
side.
I could be to TD Garden in about an hour and a half. It's just the getting in and getting out factor. So it's
Yeah,
it's a
well,
it's a chore to do, but like I could be at UMass in an hour. I could be at Providence in an hour. I could be at Hartford in an hour and a half. You know what I mean? Like it's all
yeah,
there.
yeah.
It's just it's building it around the schedule of life.
Exactly. I mean, 2 hours to Providence, but it's not like Boston where it's like it's so easy to get to Amica
Oh
Mutual Pavilion.
yeah,
It's literally right off the highway, so it's not
you
too
done it?
hard. But
Have you gone to any in Springfield?
oh, I have not. I have not. I want to go to
That
Springfield. I've been to Hartford, Bridgeport, and Providence.
Yeah, the Springfield one's a nice in and out too. It really is. Honestly, the worst part about them is like, oh man, now I got to go and deal with parking.
Yeah, well, actually, Providence wasn't too bad. You just
They're not
it's literally
terrible,
right
but
there.
yeah, they're not terrible, but it's just like, oh man, really?
I'm thinking about the drive after, like the drive home, like you're there and then you kind of stay until 10 and then you're like, oh dude, 2 hours home.
Yep.
That
It's honestly
sucks.
not the drive there. It's the drive home that you really sit there and go, fuck. Because then it's
Yeah,
not just the drive. You're like, well, now I'm home and it's going to be midnight. I'm not going to be ready for bed until 1 a.m. and I got to get up at this time. And
yeah, and of course, and obviously, I put out articles and stuff like that, and I want that to be out as quick as possible, and then I want to eat and shower, and it's 12 o'clock, and I'm coming in, and yeah, it's
yeah,
just
you're just getting in the door. So you're like, all right, I got to, and I don't know about you, but when I'm writing stuff, I write it out and then I'm like, all right, give me 10 minutes to walk away, come back, look at it again, and just make sure everything reads the way I want it to. And
yeah,
then you're good on it.
yeah. Usually, I leave it in the drafts for just a little bit because sometimes when I'm reading it, I'm just like not really. I'm kind of in a different headspace, and I'm reading it. And I'm like, this is awesome, and then I come back later. I'm like, what am I even writing?
Yeah.
What does this even mean?
This is not awesome.
Yeah, I feel that.
What was I thinking? That word awesome stretched a lot for that one. So
What am I even talking about here? I don't even remember this happening. What is this? Yeah.
how like I know I go on tangents when I talk, and then I go, ah, shit, I do that when I write too. God damn.
Yeah, thank God for Grammarly. That's all I'm
but
gonna say.
but then you
Thank
go,
God.
wait a minute though, copy and paste. Now I can do 2 articles. I mean, a good point here. So but Flow Hockey really makes it great. I wish that I could do more when it comes to some of the OHL ones too, because it just, Flow Hockey is a great value, and the fact that you can get teams like Dubuque on there too, those
Yeah.
guys, it really is good when you're trying to dive into some, Dubuque game at 3:00 in the afternoon. It's like, oh, okay, cool. I wasn't planning on this, but sure.
It really is for the hockey fan. Like if you are a diehard hockey guy and you just, you have time at work or at school, like Flow Hockey really is worth it. You get to watch almost every league. Like I'm watching my friends play in the USPHL. I'm watching the USHL, watching some of these Bruins guys like Will Zellers and Cole Spicer. And then ECHL and AHL. There's never a time where I'm like, man,
You got the
there's no
SHL too. When he came back, I was like, great, now I can watch Muhlenberg.
yeah.
Couldn't understand a word they were fucking saying, but I could watch them.
Yeah. The hockey's good. I just watch that on mute.
Yeah. It's what we're doing right now with this one, and I didn't even realize that it was, I just based on that one, but it's we'll get through the commercial break though. I'm waiting to see if they're still recording over there. But if anybody else wants to jump in, feel free to throw it in the comments or whatnot. We're happy to have more people jump in. I was going to be watching the game anyway, so I'm like, it's been a day. It's been a lot of talk and chatter and just, let's see what's going on. I put it out there, and then within minutes, I was like, holy shit, this thing's blowing up. I probably should do this.
Yeah. You know what it is though? It's like I said, like I'm on online school, so having like the people at BNG and having people in Twitter and all that to talk Bruins with. So like it was getting so bad. I was like talking to my dad about it, and he has no idea what I'm even talking about. And I'm like, no, this, and this. Can you watch this so I can talk to you about this? But everybody at BNG, like, just a great community. Twitter, the Bruins Twitter sphere, some of the best people that you'll ever meet. Honestly, it's been so great.
I will say one of the things that you have to do is you have to get to know them first, because people have a certain way about some things, and
Yeah.
so like, some people, like, you take things the way some things they say the wrong way, because you just don't know that, they just literally tweet sarcasm.
Yeah.
So it's like, but once you get into that and you're like, oh, okay, this person's sarcastic, they're just an asshole, this person knows what they're talking about, like, once you kind of get settled in, you're like, oh, okay, this is a good place to be sometimes.
Yeah, well, and you also know like their tendencies, so you know what people are usually thinking, and then you kind of know like, all right, this is kind of how they think. But I love it. I love debating Bruin stuff. For the longest time, it's like you have nobody to really bounce stuff off of. I like having the conflicting viewpoints. I like hearing out the other side and stuff like that. But yeah, some of the people on Twitter for Bruins Twitter, just amazing people. And like I said, this is my first season doing it. It's just unbelievable that I've been missing out on this whole time. I wish I started sooner.
Yeah. And it's funny too that you say that, because I think 5 years ago I stopped listening to talk radio. Like, and that's why, like, the Boston sports radio in general, like, I just haven't been. It's all been pods and shows and stuff like that. Like, the only person when he's on that I'll listen to is Ty Anderson, because he knows what he's talking about. Every time I turn on the radio and I hear, a Mike Felger hockey comment, I'm like, nope. Like,
it's funny because when I go up to Boston, it's like a treat to listen to that, because we don't get it down here, like where I'm at. So going up there, I remember playoff hockey when Boston's playing in the playoffs, and these guys are just talking about nonsense. They have no clue what they're talking about. It's just, but I love it. We would just drive around and listen to the talk radio. But
I mean,
yeah.
it's definitely worth a good laugh if you need one. If you need one,
For sure.
there was a couple. It was like 2 years ago, I think it was, where he actually put out there the idea of taking David Pastrnak off the power play, and he was dead ass serious about it, because Pastrnak was in a slump, and he's like, "You should take him off the power play." And I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Even this season with the Marshawn and Pasta having beef in the locker room, that whole thing was just man, that is so tough. When Pasternak's sitting there and Marshawn sitting there saying like, "Why is this dude still here? He should not have a job." I would be like, "Never talk about these dudes again, ever, ever."
Right. And it baffles me where I just sit there and I'm like, well, like that's the thing is like the people who know what they're talking about are talking about it not because of the views and the clicks. They're doing it because they want to converse, like you said, with other people who know what they're talking about. Some people will come in and they want to learn it. They just don't know where to learn it. And then they hear this talk radio stuff and they're like, well, what about this? And it's just like, no, that's not how that works.
Yeah. I mean, Ty Anderson, great. I like listening to Connor Ryan, Evan Marinofsky,
Yep.
and I like
Yep.
what we do at BNG too. I think it's like it's kind of a hybrid between like a professional and kind of that fan view as well. So there's so many. I like what you guys do as well. I mean, you and Dom do a fantastic job. I listen to that all the time as well. There's
Appreciate
just
that.
so many good places to go to get Bruins coverage. It's awesome.
Yeah, I have to say I love doing the show with Dom, and I mean, there are times where I sit there and I know I don't know what I'm talking about, or I've done more. I will say this too. I've also been able to build out my own network and whatnot. So like I've really come around since what was it? Was it Sunday when they had that offside they didn't challenge?
Yeah, against San Jose.
Yeah, I've talked to a former NHL official. I've talked to other, scouts and other people, and it's just like, okay, you know, I I still think it was touching the guy's stick, but I can understand the decision not to make the challenge. And again, based on the angle that I've seen, I think it was touching his stick. They have another angle and they feel that it wasn't. I will defer to that.
Yeah, and it's tough at the time because you're just so passionate and they put so much emphasis on this trip and how much these wins are going to mean if you're actually trying to make that playoff push. And then to see that go in with 3 minutes left and you're like, that was definitely offsides. That was definitely offsides. Even after I know people are like listening to what NHL refs are saying and they're like, hey, listen, this was not really this wasn't as drastic as you thought. This was actually a really close play. And it does make sense not to challenge it because,
Right.
you don't want to be on the penalty kill for the last 3 minutes of the game. So,
Exactly. And that's why when I was talking to the official that I was talking to, I'm like, I just want to make sure that it literally just comes down to was it on his stick or not? And he goes, that is exactly what it comes down to. And I'm like, okay, so based on the view that I have seen, I think it was on his stick. Now, knowing that they have four angles that I've never seen and never will see, I have to defer to the decision. I
and it's
have to.
also it's tough as well because like I didn't know that. Like I thought possession was possession regardless. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's definitely offsides. But then when you hear the rule, you're like, okay, then there is definitely a gray area. And then when you hear the full thing from an NHL ref saying that, listen, if that puck isn't on his stick, and I'm like, well, I could see where it is, but I could also see like if they have those other viewpoints and they have those other views of the ice, I
Right.
could see
And
not
if you're
challenging that call.
if you have a viewpoint down the blue line and you can see the puck hovering, then there's no point in challenging it. We don't have that viewpoint, but Joe Sacco on the bench might.
Yeah,
So
and again, it's not Joe Sacco's job to please the fans. So imagine we challenge that, it doesn't work out, and then you're on the penalty kill for 2 minutes. It's just,
yeah,
at the end of the day, it's tough because it took so long for that information to come out. And I'm watching Nesson post game, and they're saying the same thing that we're all thinking, where it's like, wow, why didn't you challenge that? But then after a few days, when everybody's already calmed down, then the actual rule comes out, and
mm-hmm.
then the refs give their opinion, and then it's like by that time, it's like the anger's already kind of washed over, and people have moved on. I wish we had that information sooner.
And I don't think it helped when Sacco made the comment using the phrase possession in his post game comments,
Yeah,
because everyone looks at it and goes, "He's got fucking possession."
absolutely. He's mid stick handle. That's 100% possession. But like you said, if he's
It's
not
not
touching the
possession;
puck,
it's contact with the puck.
yes,
Now, okay, I can sit there and say, okay, that's what he meant. He just is answering a question after a tough loss, and he's not methodically thinking out his words, and so he goes with the term possession. And possession for us and possession and for them has 3 different meanings in 3 different scenarios.
Exactly. And it's
Okay.
not to that scale, but like being on Twitter and saying stuff. It's the same thing where you need to kind of be careful with what you're saying if you're giving out news or opinions or something like that. And so like even me with 600 followers, like I'm like, okay, I really need to think this out before I send this. Joe Sacco, after a crushing loss, minces one word, and then it's the whole fan base is up in arms. So I can only imagine how difficult that is to speak out to the media there, especially Boston media. That's so tough.
Yeah. Real quick, a couple other things. I didn't realize my phone was still in a limited notification mode. I don't know if you're a basketball fan at all, but Damian Lillard has developed a deep vein thrombosis in his right calf, and it looks like Russell Wilson has signed with the New York Giants.
Didn't the Giants just pick up Winston too? I think
So.
That's yeah, I'm a Jets fan, so I really try not to watch football at all.
Wow, 1-year deal worth up to $21 million.
Really, the football contracts are insane. Like the NHL, like just the comparison is wild. Baseball too, where you hear Shohei Ohtani making $770 million.
People are going to freak out if Morgan Geekie gets paid $20 million over 4 years.
I know. Unbelievable.
And I know some people aren't going to like this, but I would do that deal.
Well, like you said earlier, the whole question with me was, can Geekie play the way he's playing without Pasternak? And it seems so far that he can. So now he's way more valuable than we thought before. And again, I think it's fine to play him with Pasternak. Like if two guys are playing well together, it's fine to keep them together. Like I don't think that it's a bad thing. I think people are blowing that part where it's like Geekie's only good with Pasternak. I think that's a little bit out of proportion because Geekie can play with Pasternak. It's not like there's somebody else waiting that, might be better, in my opinion.
There's also a comparable that I didn't realize how spot on they are. You have elite prospects pulled up?
I can now.
If you go to their player comparison tool, all right. I did not realize how close this was. Once you got to like their age 20 season, maybe age 21, but even still, like if you put in Morgan Geekie and you do a player comparison, I mean, you could probably do this on Hockey Reference too, if you have the stat head package. I'm going to throw a name at you that you're probably not going to realize that you probably should have thought of for a player like Geekie. I'll see if you can narrow it down.
Is it Zach Hyman?
No, he plays in Pittsburgh.
Oh, Pittsburgh. No. Oh, man. Don't say Malkin, please.
Nope.
Oh.
He plays with Crosby.
Plays with Crosby. Holy shit. Is he's still with Pittsburgh?
Yep.
Oh man. I have no idea right now. I'm blanking on my Pittsburgh Penguins knowledge. Who is it? Let me know.
Brian Rust.
Brian Rust is still in the NHL?
Yep, he's 32. Jeez. But if you look at Brian Rust at age 26, Morgan Geekie at age 36, like they are within 4 points of each other. They are in the same PIMS category. They are within 1 point of each other in their age 25 season. They're dead on at 28 points in their age 24 season. Like you look at this and you go, oh, okay, well, if Morgan Geekie can beat David Pasternak what Brian Rust is to Sidney Crosby, I'll pay for that. Yeah, Bruins meat got it. He got that one.
Yeah.
Oh, and Charlotte gets another one. Was he beat clean again? I looked up and it was past him, but it looked like he got beat clean again.
I have it on both screens, so we have the one there, and then I have my TV just to see the bigger view of it. Mine's also delayed, which is actually nice. Oh, you're not gonna like this one.
I saw him down on all like on in the butterfly, and it just looked like
Yeah, you're not gonna like this one. He just wasn't able to get back in position.
No, it's the the truck packing. Yeah, the puck tracking. He's not tracking the puck.
Yeah.
If you looked at it, he thought he had it by his side, and he wasn't even close.
Yeah, no. He had no idea where that puck was until it was behind him.
And look, I love Brandon Bussey. I want him to do well.
That's not Bussey. That's DiPietro. They switched this period.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, DiPietro. That one's tough.
It's let me turn my notification thing back on because I would have gotten that notification and known. But I mean, it's a weak one for DiPietro. But this is where I say not all goals are created equal because he's coming in dry off of into a third period in a game that you're already losing. And so, like, no, he wasn't tracking the puck well on that one, admittedly, but that's not a regularity for him.
And this is a tough week for Providence. They have 4 games. They have tonight, they have tomorrow, and then they have Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
So this is so like this is tough for DiPietro.
I can almost guarantee you
tomorrow.
I was gonna say I can almost guarantee you he did not expect to play tonight.
No. Yeah, this has just been a tough game for the goaltenders. I don't know.
So, like, no, he wasn't tracking the puck well. Yes, he's got to be better than that. He 100% does. But first of all, mentally, he's not in this game because he's preparing to play for tomorrow. And he's coming in cold in the middle of, or, in between the second and third period. Like, the last warm-up he got was pregame. All he got to do was come and skate around his crease a little bit. He didn't take shots or anything like that between the period. So
yeah, and it was a 5-3 game, so it wasn't really like this was some blowout. So I wonder if he even really knew until they got into the locker room that, hey, you're going out there for the third period.
And maybe Bussey has a tweak or something, and so it really was a change out of necessity. Maybe it was a change to spark the offense. I'd be very interested to see if someone asks Mujanel about the goaltending change.
I wonder if there's anybody from Providence even down at Charlotte on a Tuesday, honestly.
Probably not. But
yeah,
I mean, you could save that question for another time, but still, I would still be like, that's the number one question I would have. What caused the goalie change in a 2-goal game? Normally, if it's like a 6-goal game, you're like, okay, yanked a guy.
and I mean, Charlotte has a good amount of shots. Listen, Bussey has not been good, but you also let him finish out the period. So, at this point, like, I don't really want to say throw away the game, but I think you got to let Bussey play this one out, just because DiPietro is going to play tomorrow.
And to your point, it was a 2-goal game that you were still in, and at least Bussey was warmed up. He might not have been playing fantastic, but he was keeping you somewhat in the game. I mean,
Also,
you're being outshot by 10 shots, so
yeah. Well, also the stretch of the way that the goals happened was, he gave up 3 in the first period, and then he had a tougher period in the second. But like we said, he kind of, he found that rhythm a little bit. And then I guess, the end of the period, giving up 2 goals, especially that last one, that was a tough one to give up, that shot that you're able to see that just goes over the glove. That's the easiest save to make. Second easiest, I should say. I mean, throwing it right in the breadbasket is pretty easy too. But, I mean, if you're able to see it from that far out, especially along the wall, it's not one that you want to give up.
I forgot to mention Alan's point here that Kucherov just got 100 points for the 3rd year in a row. But I was just scrolling through some of the missed notifications that I have, and apparently Kucherov got hurt and went straight to the locker room about 20 minutes ago.
That's a killer. That's a killer for a team like Tampa Bay, especially going into the playoffs. Now that the Bruins are playing in the playoffs, I just hope for like a good hockey. So you want everybody healthy. You want every team playing at 100%. So
Well,
that's tough.
and that's the thing is if these teams are able to, like, if Tampa limps in with an injured Kucherov, then they're really going to look at things next year and be like, well, we didn't have our full array of team, you know, and so maybe we can try running it back, kind of a thing. They will only have to replace Yanni Gordon, Luke Glendening, and let's see, they have 1, 2, 3, 4 UFAs, including Jonas Johansson. Which, do you know how Brandon Halverson did the other day?
I don't know. I knew that he was called up because he's also one of those top goalies in the AHL for Syracuse. And on one of the broadcasts, they said, they were expecting to face Halverson, but then he got called up on an emergency basis. So
yeah, he did not do well. He did not do well.
How bad was it?
He gave up 5 goals on 24 shots.
Yeah, that's tough. That's not good.
Let's see, and that was against Utah. They ended up losing 6-4.
Against you, I mean, it's NHL competition, but Utah too. I don't know.
I mean, and he's already 28 years old though, so I'm not sure. That's the conundrum, because now Jonas Johansson is an unrestricted free agent. So what they do is going to be interesting. What do they have for cap projection? 8 million. If that cap wasn't going up, they'd be screwed.
Yeah, well, I think Tampa's like not in the worst position compared to like Toronto, who's going to have some really tough decisions at the end of this year.
No, they're in a much better position because the biggest player they're losing is Yanni Gord.
Yeah.
Everybody else is under contract. So realistically, they could sign Yanni Gord probably 1.5, 1.75 if they really wanted to bring him back. Glendening, Concalvis. I mean, you could just give Concalvis a qualifying offer as an RFA, and then you're replacing Perbix on D and Johansson in goal. Then you can run it back. You can replace those guys with $8 million.
I guess it's a little bit hard to talk on their goaltending. I don't really know, but Halverson is kind of that career AHLer. He's not old, but he's not like he's been in the AHL for this long. So I wonder if he's like content with his situation right now. Maybe, I don't know. I think about other teams in the way that I'm trying to think about Providence right now with those two guys, because I know a lot of people are like, yep, DiPietro, Bussy gone, but I don't know. Like, after the season Bussy's had, like, is he going to be like, yep, let me go out and look? Or maybe he's going to say, listen, this is as good as it gets, for me, at least. You just don't know what's going on in the head of these guys.
Yeah, and Tampa's a team that I look at and I go, they're going to explore the market. The question is what's that market going to look like? Because if you look, I'm just let me switch over to goaltenders real quick. But if you look, the unrestricted free agent market for goaltending this offseason, 14 guys. All right. Now you've already got Vasilevsky under contract. So let me ask you this. Are you going to go after any of these 14 guys as unrestricted free agents? Robin Lehner.
Robin Lehner, is he still playing or no?
No, that's my point.
I was gonna say the only thing I've heard out of Robin Lehner is like,
no, he's not playing.
People.
That's my point. He's not playing. You're not offering him a contract. And this is highest to lowest in AAV. Jake Allen, he's at 3.8. Are you bringing him in for?
No, not for 3.8. Jake Allen is he still with Montreal?
No, he's with New Jersey. It's him and Markstrom.
Oh yeah.
So
not for 3.8. I'll tell you that.
No, for 3.8 or 4, I could see New Jersey keeping him.
Yeah, I don't see Tampa going after him.
I mean, he's going to want at least 3.8. Also, by the way, he's 34. Like,
yeah.
Unless he's willing to take a $2 million pay cut, I'm not going after him. What about Alexander Gorgiev?
I like watching the Sharks. I like watching Colin Graff, but there is no. I mean, again, it's tough because the Sharks aren't very that good or aren't that good. But yeah, Alexander Georgiev is not a goalie that I'm like, let's go throw money at this guy.
The only reason why I'm Tampa Bay and I pick up the phone and I call Gorgiev's representatives is I go, how much do you think you're actually going to get? Because for $1 million to throw him in behind Vasilevsky and you only need him to make 25 starts, I can be talked into it.
Yeah, I mean, I could.
Because he did put
For a
up
few.
40 wins behind the Colorado team. So behind a competent team, he has performed. Again, not my number one choice if I'm Tampa Bay. Let me make that abundantly clear. I'm going through some of these other guys on the list. I'm calling Vitek Vanacek before I'm calling him, and he's not high on the list either.
Yeah, I like it's all about the money at this point, I think, with Georgiev. I mean, listen, if he's willing to, take a little bit of a cut, then sure, but yeah, no.
So the name I look at on this list the most is Freddie Anderson. Because Freddie Anderson is now going to be stuck in Carolina with what they want him to do and what he's capable of doing. He is very capable of giving you 20 to 30 starts.
Yeah, again, I think it's the money. Freddie Anderson's great. I think he's good, and I think Carolina has a few of those goaltenders that can play in the NHL. I also is this season Carolina have that kind of carousel of goaltenders. I know even Quinnipiac alum Yaniv Peretz was getting in there in the NHL, and I was like, and he's playing in the ECHL right now.
The thing is Freddie Anderson was hurt. I forget who else they had, but Kochekov has been an anchor for them.
Yeah, Spencer Martin as well.
Spencer Martin was the other one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm just saying, like the depth that they have to now they have to go loan out.
All I'm saying is this list of 14 guys, he's the one that I sit there and go, okay. And that tells you how weak this list is.
Yeah.
Because you also got Anton Forsberg, who, again, I could be talked into, but not at 2.75. Andre Fleury is retiring. Vladar, I could be talked into, again, same thing. Ilya Samsonov, David Rittich, James Reimer, Alex Lyon, Jonas Johansson, and then Jackson Stauber in Utah.
If this was a few years ago, that list wouldn't be too bad.
The problem is it's not.
So for now, nah.
That's where I sit there and I go, if you look at some of the pending, goaltenders in the American Hockey League, like I sit here and I go, hey, what about Hunter Shepard?
Hunter Shepard is somebody I would definitely take a chance on. I'm not saying he's going to be, nobody knows yet, but he is a guy that I would be confident putting a little bit of money aside to give him the opportunity to earn that role.
But again, it's also exactly what is the role, because his role in Tampa would not be the same as his role in San Jose. So in Tampa, where he's only trying to make 20 to 30 starts, hey, you're going to collect an NHL paycheck. You're going to sit on the bench for 90% of the season. We're going to ask you or for 60% of the season, and we're going to put you against some of the easier NHL competition out there. He's going to get the games against the Sharks and the Blackhawks and, those guys. And they're just going to say, we just want you to keep us in the game. Our offense is good enough to try and get the W.
And that's the thing with goaltenders, right? Like they might be getting a lot of offers, but I think it's just like, what is the right fit for them? Is it somewhere where you could, play a lot of minutes, but it's a team that really isn't that great? Or you could back up, exactly what your role is. You just have to go in there and play a competitive game and you get paid the NHL dollars. Listen, I would sit on the bench for NHL money any day of the week. Like, you don't even have to talk to me. I'll just sit there and open the door and whatever. But I know some guys, they want more. They want to be that NHL starter.
Yeah, either you're looking for the opportunity or you're just looking, because the other thing is he's also the kind of guy that if something happens to Vasilevsky for a week, he gets a couple extra starts, he could take it and say, no, I can do this job. And by the way, the RFA list, a little bit more interesting, definitely a lot cheaper, but significantly shorter. We could see a goaltender offer sheeted this year.
Who's on the top of that list?
The most expensive one is Daniil Tarasov.
Oh, Daniil Tarasov is not a bad goalie.
No, at 25, he's making a little over $1 million this year. Okay, fine. Arvid Soderblom, not thrilled about.
No, but that could also be because of he's Chicago, so right, so he
Yeah,
that's just Chicago's situation is tough for any goaltender, honestly. So I don't know.
I'm not thrilled about Georgi Romanov, but again, similar thing. He's in the San Jose system, and let's face it, now that they've got Askarov, he's not really going anywhere. It's the other half of the list. Dobish in Montreal.
Yeah, well, Dobish was good. He had a good stint, and I saw him play the first game in Providence. That he's a good goalie for sure. I mean,
Joel Hofer in St. Louis.
Yeah, I don't.
And Lucas Dostal in Anaheim.
Yeah, I don't think the Ducks will lose Dostal.
No,
no matter how much
they're not going to lose him. But the fact that someone could put forth an RFA sheet on one of those three guys, like Montreal's goaltending situation is very interesting because Dobish is an RFA, Primo is an RFA. Neither, like, you have to bring one of them back to play with Montembeault next year. I really think Jacob Fowler is going to come out after this season.
So do you throw Fowler right in that role where he's that 1A, 1B guy with Montembeault right out of college?
No, I make him my 1A in Providence. If it were me, I'm qualifying both Dobish and Primo. I'm running with Dobish and Montembeault in the NHL, and then Fowler and Primo in
Laval.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Fowler is easily able to take the job. I kind of go into it with a mindset of that 50-50 split.
Yeah.
But I let Fowler take the job, and potentially he can work his way up into the NHL. He would be able to.
And I think the 50-50, like, that's not a bad thing, especially for the AHL and the grueling schedule. Playing 50-50 and getting that, like the way DiPietro is, where he gets the Friday, Sunday when it happens.
Yep.
It's great, really. I think that there's only benefit from getting that rest because the games are so close together. I think 50-50 split in the AHL is fine for any goalie, even Jacob Fowler, and because I mean he's incredible, really, at BC. I wonder what's going to happen with Trey Augustine as well. But I know Detroit has a lot of goaltenders.
So to real quick to follow up on that, because next year will be the second to last year of Montembeault's deal. If Fowler is just taking off and running with it, and you feel confident in Fowler Dobish up in the NHL, you're now able to move off of Montembeault at the trade deadline, and he's not a rental.
I think it's an interesting situation, but it's one of those that, like, if I was a Montreal fan, I would love it. I think that's a really good situation to be in.
And think about
right now it's not great because, you really don't have two NHL caliber goalies.
But they're still in the thick of it. That's the thing, is they're still in the wild card race. So and by that point, they will have no retention spots used. So you can very easily move off from Montembeault, especially if you retain, and knock him down to a $2 million backup.
Yeah, so they have a lot of outs. They have a lot of good decisions that they can make. So especially where they are right now with the team that they have, unfortunately, Montreal's looking up.
Yeah, they're looking really good going forward. You mentioned Detroit. They have a lot of goaltenders right now, but when you really look at it, most of them are done coming up. So like Augustine, he's going to come out. He's not going back. And really, the three that you're looking at are Gage Alexander, Sebastian Cossa, and Trey Augustine. The thing is you're going to run with Cossa and Augustine in the future. That is your future tandem in the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
Let's be honest about that. So the question is how do we get there? Well, in the National Hockey League right now, you have Mrazek and Talbot both lined up for next year. You don't bring Alex Lyon back. So next year you run Cossa and Augustine in Grand Rapids as a 1-2 tandem. Somebody gets hurt, Cosa's your guy that you call up. After that, depending on how the season's going, you can either move on from Talbot or you can move on from Mrazek at the trade deadline and bring Cossa up full time at that point, and then Augustine takes over as your number one, or you play out the season as it was. Both of those guys, Mrazek and Talbot, are free agents at the end of next season. You can bring one or the other or neither of them back, and then you're right into Augustine and Cossa.
Yeah, plus Cossa has played a few years of professional already, so I think he is he's close. He could be that third guy. He could get the number one spot in Grand Rapids and then be that guy that can come up mid-season if you want to make a move at the deadline. I think that's perfect. I just, something that I think it's a little bit off topic, but it's interesting that
there's nothing off topic, trust me.
I think that it was funny because I heard a few years ago, fans kind of panicking that Cossa was starting in the ECHL. And I think that's fine for a goalie to be a starter and just get those professional reps in. And I think he's only gotten better since then. So I think it was just a great decision. It's just funny looking back at it, how these fans were like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. He's starting in the ECHL and he's on the brink of being in the NHL now. It's been fine.
Oh man, that slid right across the crease. I was listening, I promise.
No, you're good.
You'll probably see it on your other screen in 2 seconds. It just, oh man, yeah. It's people act like getting a demotion for anybody is the end of the world, and realistically, it can be the best thing for you because like Matty Pacha. The other day, he was playing in the power play bumper spot. He's not playing the bumper in the National Hockey League right now.
Yeah, Patra gets the top minutes in Providence. And I think that Mark says it all the time. I don't know what there's just such a negative stigma around the AHL. Like being sent down is like, your career is over. In reality, you get to see these guys in the AHL play. Did he miss?
Yes. Oh, you're gonna see it in a second. Oh man.
They're knocking on the door right now.
It's right. It's like a point blank shot that he just kind of flips over, and there you see it now.
This line is buzzing. Jackson Nelson 2 points today. Abate has a point.
Yeah.
Man, they're knocking on the door here, but it's tough in a 6-3 game.
It's tough in a 6-3 game. It would be better if it was still 5-3, but guess what? They're shooting the puck.
Yeah.
Like
also, you rarely see six goals put up on Providence. They're one of the best defensive teams in the AHL, partly due to their goaltending. They have the second best goal differential. I don't know what it would be now, but a few days ago when I was writing an article, it was like plus 50, I think, plus 50. Colorado Eagles are number one with like a plus 65, which is just incredible. I can't even imagine.
They had Callum Ritchie for so long.
Oh man, this is just. I was hoping I have an article prepared for like when Providence clinches. I was like, oh, tonight's the night, but we might have to wait a little bit.
Yeah, change the date on that one.
Yep, let it know it's going out tomorrow, or maybe I shouldn't even put a date on it. I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah, there you go. That's the way to go.
Oh man. Yeah, just watching. I think that even though this game wasn't, the best, even for the viewers right now that are watching and don't have Flow Hockey, you've seen a very good game out of some players that you're probably wondering about.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've seen a great game out of Patra so far. Merkulov's played all right from what I've seen. You see some good plays by Wallstrom. This is like these guys that I keep constantly getting questions about. You've seen a pretty good game out of them in the AHL so far. So I'm happy for the people that are able to watch right now.
Yeah, and it's you're seeing some mistakes from guys. That's one of the things Dom and I try to bring to people is the fact that and not a shot at you or anything, but like people only ever post the highlights.
Exactly. No,
Dom,
and that's true. That's true.
Dom and I break down the highlights and we bring in some lowlights because they have to be looked at. And we did that a lot when it was Fabian Liesel and people were saying, we got to get him up. We got to get him up. We got to get him up. And it's just like, if you look at his game and you look at where he's making the mistakes and, he's carrying the puck into the ozone on 1-on-4s, 1-on-3s.
Yes.
And you're just like, dump it. Dump and change. You have no one within 5 feet of you.
Yeah, I know.
Because they're all changing, and then all of a sudden he gets a turnover on the blue line, and it's a 3-on-2 the other way because the third guy's still coming off the bench, and you're like, oh, thank God DiPietro made the save.
Yes, it's so funny because that's what I talk about behind, like,
this kid in the stands with the stick is awesome.
He's having a great time at the game. I wish I was him watching the game.
He is having the time of his life, and I am all for it.
Absolutely. You know what? There's been no shortage of fun on the Checkers broadcast tonight. I'll tell you what. From the babies dancing, from seeing Chubby the Checker on the screen. Now this kid, this has been great. This has been a great night.
We're looking at it. We're looking at a dance off right now.
This is awesome.
I have to look at the schedule going forward. I got to do more of these.
Like I said, I think this is awesome being able to bring, this to people who, they might have a free Tuesday night. They tune in, they hear us talk some Bruins, and they get to watch the game, and they get to see their players that they're so curious about. And it's not just Patra. It's, Minton. It's Merkulov. It's going to be more players in the future. Farinacci's one that has, question marks around him in his future.
I have to say, as soon as I saw Chris Johnson's tweet first of Carlo to Toronto, and my immediate reaction was, we better be getting Cowan or Minton.
we had a Toronto fan on that 6-hour-long live stream.
Oh, I've done those before. Those are brutal. They're fun.
It was tough because
I did one. What was it? 3, 4. I think it was 4 years ago. I did one. I had no, maybe it was 5 years ago now. I had Kevin O'Keefe on. It was me, Kevin, and Dom. And right after Dom posted the link to the show on HF boards, the site crashed.
Oh, man, that's awful.
Everybody jumped to our stream because no one could follow along with it. Because, people who were constantly trying to refresh HF boards, trying to figure out what was going on, the last thing they saw was Dom's post for our stream. We ended up having like 7,000 people on at one point.
Wow. Yeah.
Because HF boards crashed, a few other things just completely crashed, and it was just like, oh, okay, we're the only thing people have right now. Because
and it's
like the only other people who were doing trade deadline specials were like TSN and NHL Network.
Yeah, and I think there's value in getting the fans' point of view, but the problem with ours was like we were only planning for it to be like from 12 to 3:30. Like we were going to stay on a little bit after and kind of just like talk about everything that happened. And then of course the Bruins made 3 moves within the last minute, and then we're waiting for 3 hours because of the Marchand deal, and we're like, this can't be it. Like we weren't believing the reports or anything. So we sat there, and then we kind of listened to Sweeney's presser at the end, and it was honestly a great time. It was long. It was so long. It felt every bit of 6 hours.
It was the year they traded for Hampus Lindholm. That's what it was.
Oh man, that's good. That's great. That's another good trade deadline year for the Bruins. It's better than at the beginning, we were kind of just sitting talking about every other team. And we were like, man, when are the Bruins going to make a move already? And then, of course, all the moves come in at the last minute.
See, I wasn't expecting them to make a lot of moves. That's part of why I was like, I'm not really pushing to do much for the deadline, because I looked at Coyle, I looked at Carlo, and I was like, those look like more off-season moves, because I was not expecting them to be able to get the packages they did during this season. But once the prices started coming out for what other players were going for, I was like, he's got to look. Now, I've always been a Sweeney advocate when it comes to his trades,
Yeah.
because if you really go back to his trade, honestly, I really am glad that Sweeney's getting the chance to do this rebuild, because so much has been made about the 3 mistakes that he's ever made. 2015 draft. People want to throw the Rick Nash trade in there, but really what they don't realize is there was an extension in place. Like, they were getting ready to do the extension when he got his concussion. So that
Yeah.
pushed the extension off. And by the time they circled back to it, he said, I'm not playing anymore. I'm done. So if you have 3 more years of Rick Nash, tell me that trade's not worth it.
It's so easy when the team isn't playing well to point fingers. But I wanted to say that, before we talked about this at the end of the stream, where it was like, I'm happy that Don Sweeney looks like he has a plan, and I hope that he's here long enough to carry out that plan, because he's made a few fantastic moves, and I think he's earned, from the time that he's had in Boston, I think he's earned the chance to at least give it a go with the plan that he has in place. And I don't know if you saw, I'm sure you did on Twitter, like they're comparing Lysell, and it's like, yeah, Lysell was picked before Wyatt Johnson, but you know who was also picked before Wyatt Johnson? Like 20 other guys that were
Yeah.
not nearly as good as Lysell is right now. And it's like, it's so easy to point that finger. Lysell fell to the Bruins. So it looked like a no-brainer at the time. And Wyatt Johnson was a second rounder that was picked way off the board. So it's so difficult to be like, years down the line, because people like to forget, that this is what it was. At the time, we were like, we need to take Lysell. He's dropping so far. Like, this could be our guy. And then Wyatt Johnson, we were like, that team's an idiot. Why are you taking this guy out? You probably could have got him in the second round.
And let's not forget that the playing year of 2020 and 2021 were all but gone because of COVID. And that's going to affect your 2022, 2023, and even your 2024 drafting, because those guys all had a season where you're like, what the fuck are we doing? And so
Yeah.
the fact that they're coming out of 2022 with Poitras, Loch Mellis, Jackson Edwards still around. I love what he could be if he continues to work with Adam McQuaid. And I'm going to throw Cole Spicer in there as well. He's in a weird predicament right now, but he can flat out play.
Yeah, I'm glad that he's back playing hockey. I thought that when I initially heard that he was leaving UMD for mental health, I think was the reason, or health issues, I was like, oh God, this is not a good situation. But to see him, just a few months later suit up for Dubuque, I was thrilled. So that's good.
Yeah, the problem is I think a lot of the health stuff was stress related due to not being. He lost his eligibility first due to his grades. And so I think that might have started to send him down into a little bit of a spiral to really want to step back, which he did. Credit to him. I'm glad he's doing well, and I'm glad he's playing well for Dubuque. The problem is at the end of this season, he can't play juniors anymore. He's aged out.
Yeah, it's
So the question, Dom and I were talking about this yesterday. What do you do with him?
it's tough coming from juniors and playing in the in now professional hockey. And talking about it before, I forgot who was that that the other guy who was on here. I forgot his name. Sorry.
Into the Den.
Yeah, Into the Den. He was talking about Dean Letourneau on the wall, and he was kind of getting manhandled a little bit.
That was at development camp, though, so it's kind of one of those things where you do take it with a grain of salt. It was Letourneau's first development camp, and he had just flown in from the draft. So, body-wise, yes, you like to see it, but I don't put a lot into that particular one when it comes to Letourneau.
Yeah, he's coming out of high school, and I think that's a lot of people put a lot of weight on this year's, stats, even though I don't think that's necessarily fair. I think a spot opened up when Cutter Gauthier decided not to come back.
It was Will Smith.
Will Smith, when Will Smith decided not to come back, I think that opened up a spot, and I think that it was a good decision to go to BC. I know they're gonna have him eat right, gain a little bit of weight, and I know he's gonna get time. But I think everybody's upset because we knew this was going to be a project, and then now that it's projecting, people are like, no, we need somebody now. Well,
Right.
Looking at last year compared to where we are now, Don Sweeney, I could see him saying, yeah, we could go out and get somebody like that.
Well, here's the other thing too, is you have the guy who's almost ready already. That's Matthew Poitras. Matthew Poitras right now in Providence. He's not an full-time NHL player. So if you're looking for an NHL center to jump into your roster, you have one right now who's almost there. Your season went to shit in a handbasket and came back through as more dog shit. So why are you going to bring him up here, put him in this mess, and say, figure it out, when you have a perfectly good farm team in Providence that's competing for playoffs, where, as we talked about, he's going to get PP time, he's going to get PK time, he's going to get top line minutes, and he's going to get top line wingers next to him to develop.
Exactly. And you say one. We have two now. Fraser Minton also kind of on that.
Well, you didn't have him when you started the season, but yes. Now you have two. Now you have Fraser Minton, and they were teammates together in World Juniors. They were line mates. Yes. So I really would not be surprised if eventually you see you know how this team loves to do their pairs. They keep two guys together and kind of build the third one around that. I really would not be surprised if you see Pastrnak and Geeky stay together. You then see Hustadinov and Middlestead, or Lysell and Middlestead, some combination thereof, right? Because that's what you're trying to figure out right now. How do those guys all fit in? And then Poitras Minton as a pairing. Because you could very easily do Poitras, Minton, and Lysell. I think it's a little bit of a smaller line, but Lysell isn't that small. Like, your smallest player on that line is Matthew Poitras. Minton's got a pretty big body to him, and he can lay the hit. So I wouldn't be against it in a couple of years.
Yeah, and I like that line. I just think that if you're going to have that smaller line, you need to change your mindset a little bit about how you enter the zone. You might want to let these guys, try to carry it in and use their skill, opposed to dumping it in and then having to go chase and play along the wall. And I think it's kind of an easy fix. I mean, these guys are skilled, so.
But you could also, I could also very easily see Geeky, Poitras, Pastrnak as a top three line with, Minton, Hustadinov, and Lysell as a second line. I really think they're going to try to find a way to move on from Lindholm. I personally really do believe that. And there are a lot of teams that will still take him, even at his full cap hit, because they need to get to the cap floor or they need to stay in the spending category. There are also a lot of teams that are looking at him going, well, look at what the clusterfuck Boston was. If we can get him in here, he'll be fine. Also, let me ask you this. How much more appealing is he if I say, hey, I'm going to retain $2.25 million for the rest of his contract, and he's a $5 million third line center for you?
Yeah, minimizes the risk. And Boston is able to do that. They have 2 more slots left, right? Or 3.
Once the season is over, they'll have 2 spots left. And then who's the third one? Carlo is the third slot, and he's gone after next year. So you can very easily do that. But I would even say, even at, what is he, 8.25 right now? Columbus. It screams deal with Columbus. They can plug him in next to Sean Monahan. reunite those two, get some veteran leadership into that locker room for a young team. You're not asking for a haul back for Elias Lindholm. I want to make that very clear. Your addition is his cap hit. That's what you're trading for, the cap space and the flexibility in your own lineup. So you can't expect a lot in return, but San Jose could use a guy like that lower in their lineup. Anaheim could use a player like that. I look at who was it? I mean, San Jose. You could really also look at Hampus Lindholm as well. That's an upgrade for them. So there's ways to move money around, but I really think the guy they're going to look at is Elias, and I don't think his no movement clause is going to stop him. I think he'd be willing to waive it.
Yeah, and I think that's important that what you're saying is because I know a lot of people are thinking that Elias Lindholm is just this anchor that we just cannot move and has no value. And what you're saying is true. He has value. He has value to these teams. And looking at Coyle, and I'm not talking about the return that we got for Coyle, but there are teams out there that could use a guy like Elias Lindholm, and they won't be scared off by that no movement clause.
Right. And again, your addition is getting a couple mid-tier pieces back and the cap space. And you free up the spot in your lineup because it allows you the ability to go down the middle with Poitras and Middlestead and if you want to go Minton or if you want to go Zacha, like it frees that up. Now you could move Zacha back out to the wing and that changes your spine down the middle. It's all going to be dependent on how these last 10, 11 games go. Hustadinov has played left wing. He's played center. I like him in both right now. I got to see more of him in both positions.
Yeah.
Because I was very against it this year, moving Poitras to the wing. However, if that's the best move for the lineup, I'm not going to argue with it. Because he can always move back.
I just like having that versatility, having that choice that if this is the move that you want to make, having that flexibility opposed to having somebody who's only a wing or only a center. Husnudinov has been awesome. He's been like a jolt to this lineup. He is a lot of the reason why fans are tuning in each night because they want to see the Murat Husnudinov show.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him. He's such a fun player to watch.
Minton, Poitras, Geeky. Third line.
And that's the thing with Geeky is he's versatile in where he can play. He can play that third line and he can play on the first line. That's huge.
He needs the playmaker next to him. He's got the shot. So you got the playmaker in Poitras and you got the shooter in Geeky. Or you could do Middlestead in Geeky. Or you could do there's just so many different options. You just have to cycle through to see what's going to work. And that's where, the moves come into play. Do you bring John Beecher back? That doesn't really affect your top lines, but it can affect how much money you have to work with. Because believe it or not, Jeffrey VL costs you less than John Beecher. But John Beecher's qualifying offer is less than he's making this year.
You know what it is this is the time to try some of this stuff out, right? So this is why I love watching these games right now, especially now that Sacco's willing to move these lines a little bit. I'm excited to see what works and what's going to stick for the future because what's happening in these next 11 games could be the future of the Boston Bruins. So,
well, they're going to dictate it, that's for sure. That is for sure. Because if Hustadinov all of a sudden, let's say he's had 5 great games, all of a sudden he just starts to tank, you're going to look at him completely different. I don't think he's going to do it, but it could happen. It wouldn't be the weirdest thing we've ever seen.
No, and it's tough with the shorter guy. We have no idea really. He's not that. I'm excited with Casey Middlestat. I think he's had a very good few games. I thought it was funny. Mark Diver was not a huge fan of everybody that we got. He wasn't a fan of Yoki Haru. Wasn't really a big fan of Middlestat either. And it turns out these guys are playing well in their roles. Nothing against Mark Diver. He's way more versed in this stuff, and I will take his word at gospel, but I just found that a little bit funny. It's just man, like I'm so excited with the direction that this team is going. I know fans are on Twitter and talking about like,
It's the
you know,
talk
how
radio, man. It's the talk radio.
yeah, it's
I really think because I think Sweeney's going to turn this around a lot quicker than people are
yeah, I
assuming.
think.
You know, people are looking at this going, this is going to take them fucking forever. It's going to be a 5-year thing, 10-year thing. Pasta's going to want out, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, not really. Not really.
Yeah.
Because right now, I think what people really lose sight of is your next step is, what draft pick do I have? You need to know what draft pick you have. Because if you lose in the lottery and you're 14th, right? Well, guess what? Now I really consider looking at that restricted free agent market and making a play for maybe a Marco Rossi or, you know, someone like that, because I'd rather give up the first round pick to get a guy who's ready now. Now, if I'm getting the first pick overall and I have free reign of Schaefer and Higgins and, you know, all these other guys, like, honestly, I'm looking at 2, 3, 4 and going, I can drop and still get an elite center and get another asset for dropping down in the draft. I'm open to that. Now, or I take Schaefer and I just go, thanks for fixing my defense long term.
I think that the main thing right now is just trying to figure out what works for the rest of the season, and then exactly what you said, figure out what's going to happen with this draft. I think you need to be top 8, and that's being pretty generous. I think it's, you know, the top 3 and then a slight drop off, and then, you know, Porter Martone, and then after that a slight drop off for the next 4 guys, and then after that it's like, you know, that first pick really isn't as great as the top 8.
And we can sit here, I could do a screen share, we could do Tankathon 450,000 times and get 10 different results a million times. But that's not, you know, and we could talk about every possible, well, if they get the first draft pick, the second draft pick, but it doesn't matter until they actually know what pick they're taking.
Yeah.
You know, and it just, we got to get there first. We are back in dog days of the season. That's where we are. We got to trudge through. Although I would say keep an eye on that last game of the season. I think we're going to see a massive AHL haul, and we'll see a bunch of guys come up, and you know we'll see a swan song for, you know, Georgi Merkulov, for, you know, DiPietro and some of these other guys that we were watching tonight. That, you know, like that's one where I look at it and I go, you know what? Throw Brunet in there. Just go for it. Have at it. Throw Brunet and Sweezy as your bottom pair.
Yeah, the thank you games, the great season games that you throw in at the end. I think that, yeah, those are interesting to watch. And, you know, people are like, man, like it's just going to be tough for the rest of the season. Like I'm watching Providence, and they're a fun team to watch. There's so much happening.
Even though they lost today, this was a great game to watch.
Yes, and that's what I said. You know, like even though it was a 6-3 loss, people who are wondering about their favorite prospects, guys like Minton and Patra, I get questions every day about those 2 guys. Mm-hmm. And being able to watch the game, and I think that's so important, because some people don't watch anything or even look at stats and say, well, call up Lysell, what the hell's going on? And then some people only watch the highlights, which, you know, I definitely put a hand in that. I post all that. And some people watch the game and they realize, yeah, you know what? Lysell had a good game. He put up a point, but there's still glaring issues on why he's not up right now, and we can understand that. Sometimes we can't even understand why some of these guys are getting called up, but particularly with Lysell, with his name just popping up all season, it's like, yeah, you know, he's not really playing that well offensively, and he's turning the puck over a lot, and, you know, I could definitely see why he's not called up yet.
Yeah, right now this year the bet was every time you saw Patrick Brown called up, how long until the first why not Lysell tweet comes out? Like, it should be Lysell is the immediate response, and it's like, no, Kostelic is hurt. You're not putting in Fabian Lysell for Mark Kostelic. That's not the way it works.
It's just unbelievable the way that, like, I read this stuff and I'm like, I just get baffled sometimes by some of these burner accounts that say the dumbest things on
But
Twitter.
it's okay because you can move Elias Lindholm to the fourth line to play for Marcus Stella because he sucked.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
but no, that's not no. So
Yeah, and it's also tough because, I see the value in Providence, and I don't want to be the guy that like watches them and sees all the hard work that they put in, and then they get called up and be like, nope, fourth line, that should be Georgi Merkulov's spot. That should be, Matt Patra's spot. In reality, these guys work in Providence to play that role in Boston. Jeffrey
Mhm.
VL does a fantastic job in Providence. So when he gets called up and I see those comments about, man, Lysell should be up right now, it's like, no, this guy worked his ass off in Providence to fit this mold and to fit this role specifically.
Yep.
And he did a great job at it, and he absolutely earned that spot. And that's how I feel about VL. I sort of feel that about Brown early on. I know it's just really has not worked out the way that it.
Well, Brown is there for the leadership he brings to Providence, what he adds to the room, as we talked about before. That's what he's there for. You call him up to say, thank you for your work, thank you for your efforts. Here's an NHL paycheck for as long as we can afford to give it to you roster wise. And the next time we need to do this, we'll do it again. Because there's not a single team that's going to ever look at Patrick Brown on waivers and go, we want him.
Yeah. But when talking about resigning people, like, people don't think about the value that he brings in Providence, and he brings a lot of value in Providence. And he brings a lot of value in the fact that, he can call up whenever. He'll be whenever. You don't have to worry about him on waivers. He could play that fourth line for 3 games. Then you send him back down and send him on his merry way.
He's also the guy, like, so a great example, the road trip that they're on right now, right? They flew Kostelic back home. They have no extra forwards on this trip. If someone else gets hurt, I don't care who it is, anybody else gets hurt, you need to call someone. You're flying them from Boston to Anaheim and saying, be at the rink, be ready to go. You have a 5.5, 6 hour flight. Like, the guy who's going to be able to do that and go into your lineup, play reasonably well is Patrick Brown. It's not going to be Fraser Mitten. It's not going to be Matthew Poitras. Like, they don't do that.
Yeah.
Especially if you're like, hey, it's a 3-hour drive to Philly. Can you hop on a plane and take an hour-long flight? You don't even need to bring anything with you. We're coming back tomorrow. Like, okay, it's on your equipment guy to get his hockey gear there. Most of the time, a player will just say, yeah, I'll pay for my rental. Drive down. Okay, now they're there, they play the game, and they'll drive home. Any young player can do that, and they'll be excited to do that. But you need a veteran guy who can fly across the country on a dime and jump into the lineup.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying, is that there is value in those guys to keep around, even though, Patrick Brown is not going to, light it up and score even just 10 points in an NHL season. He's a guy that you can, if you need a guy, he is that guy that you could put in and you could ship him to wherever to play. He's there instantly and he's ready to go. He's a guy that can fit in the locker room. And then he's a guy that also, down in Providence, is the guy that the younger players can kind of migrate towards and pick up knowledge that way. I think Patrick Brown has a lot of value. That's just my thought, and I understand
he
that
has a lot of value for the contract that he signs.
Yes,
I can find that on the street at a dime a dozen, so I'm not paying him more than $1 million. I'm sorry, but he gives you $1 million worth of value and then some. So I just can't wait. I can't wait for the shitstorm that's going to hit Twitter when Patrick Brown re-signs a contract for $890,000 next year. Because they're going to be like, it's a 2-way deal. What is he doing? So, real quick, I'm just going to go around the scoreboard for tonight before we get going here. I don't know how much of the scoreboard you've seen. I just pulled it up, but the Lightning won their game over Pittsburgh 6-1. So even though they lost Kucherov, he still got his power play goal, and they're off and running. But the Hurricanes lost to the Predators. The Predators got 3 goals on 16 shots.
Oof.
So the Leafs put up a 7-spot, won 7-2 over the Flyers, which, okay, that's not crazy. Sabres beat Ottawa 3-2.
That would be great if Boston was kind of in that mix still. That would be amazing.
Yeah, unfortunately, the last 4 losses kind of kicked us out of that one.
Yeah.
Let's see. The 10:30 game is LA hosting the Rangers, so that one actually will be a pretty interesting one to watch. Jonathan Quick going back to LA. I hope he gets that start. I haven't seen if the starting goaltenders were announced yet, but I hope he gets that one.
Yeah.
The Flames are up 1-0 on Seattle. They're in the first period intermission. No goals yet from Ovechkin. Capitals are losing 2-1 to the Jets. Shout out Bobby Bruschi. He is at that game. The Avalanche are beating the Red Wings 2-1 on the first intermission. The Wild are losing to Vegas 2-0 at the second intermission. And the Blues are up 4-1 on Montreal in the second intermission. So it's going to be a big swing for the standings today, and then tomorrow we only have 4 games. I hate how they're doing this. By the way, how many times this year have we seen 13 games in one day, 1 the next? Like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, Boston's playing tomorrow though, so that's fine. But when it's every other team that plays, like when Boston plays on a slate of 13 games, and then the next day it's like the 3 worst games that you have no interest in watching, and then you're on Flow Hockey like, wow,
it's a Tuesday. There's no one playing.
Yeah, Canadian Junior B. Let's go. Let me pick a random team here and just
Hey, look at that! It's the U10s. Yay!
Yeah.
But anyways, I got to go get a couple other things done before the other late games start. So Kenny, thank you so much for jumping on. I will definitely be putting this back out there for more Providence games because this was a blast, and I'm sure we'll get more people involved. Just like you said, the Twitter sphere of Bruins hockey and all that in general. It's a great group of people, and it's just great to sit down and have like a round table kind of thing. So I look forward to doing more of these. Thank you so much for jumping on. I'll let you know the next time I plan to do one.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. This has been a hell of a time, and yeah, just had a lot of fun.
I know you've got it written down there, but if you want to just give yourself a quick plug before we sign off, I want to thank everyone for tuning in and keep an eye out for more. Based on the turnout that I'm seeing, we'll do this more.
Awesome.